Hola, hola. Happy Sunday, everyone. It is time for a cafecito break. We're going to be on this feed for a bit today. It's not too late, mi gente. There is a big battle happening in New York City. The mayoral race is heating up. Que mucho bochinche with this race. All right, mi gente. The intention of today is to discuss Curtis Sliwa, who is another choice for New York City mayor. Now, I understand before we continue, I know I can hear it in the atmosphere. The polls. Have the polls always been accurate? No. And what I would like to present to you, my intention is that I'd like you to get to know Curtis Sliwa a little bit better. My intention is to present to you some other viewpoints, including my own, to share with you what is very obvious to real New Yorkers. We could have saved you lots of money had you just been tuning in with folks like us, folks who are boots on the ground, which is one of the reasons why we support Curtis Sliwa. He's boots on the ground. Do you think that Andrew Cuomo is boots on the ground? Some of you are saying that Zoran is boots on the ground. I mean, he's more of a accessible, it seems, right? But he's not really working class, man of the people. He's not really a New Yorker, a real New Yorker. He's not even native born New York. And I believe that people who are native New Yorkers, New York is an important city. And we've allowed democratic, socialist, communists pushing policies one way or the highway kind of thinking to just take over many things that are not going the right way. So while I can agree there are ideas that are coming forth from maybe the socialists that seem like, hey, you're talking to the people of New York City who are having a hard time making things ends meet. Everything is more expensive. Living here is really expensive. But the solutions that Zoran is putting forth is terrifying, quite frankly, for many people who are small business minded, for example, working class people. And, someone like me that covers so much of New York, boots on the ground, like through Cafecito Break and my sister, we don't like what comes with the chaos that comes with. And I think that New York needs to heal. We've been through a whole lot. We've been through a whole lot since COVID, for example. And that kind of brings me to the man in question here, Andrew Cuomo. I don't know how many times we need to say it. I know that it's disappointing, but, the truth of the matter is there's a couple of things at play here. Number one, if you don't live in New York City and you don't understand what's happening in New York City politics, shush. Sit this one out, please. If you're not helping the real New Yorkers and what we're trying to communicate, you're not supporting New York. You're not supporting us when you say you get what you vote for. Because I, as a content creator, as somebody who represents local media here in New York, I've been highly frustrated for many years with influencers who are in the conservative space, people in leadership who are in the conservative space, people who have big money who might be conservative, but you are very out of touch with the pulse of New York City and what real New Yorkers want. You're really out of touch if you believe that the disaster that has been created via the Democratic Party and the media collusion is going to convince people, for example, who support Curtis Sliwa to vote for Andrew Cuomo. Now we're literally getting pressure from people. It's ridiculous. We're getting pressure from people calling us the spoilers. There was a mayoral debate the other day, and there were 3 people in this debate, but apparently NBC focused on just 2. As a media professional, I just want to say, NBC, I'm very disappointed. It was very disgraceful. So I think with that, why don't we start by presenting to you Uncle Scott Lebedo, who shared his dissatisfaction in the best way that I think that I agree with. All right, so this is Scott Lebedo, and this is his reaction that he gave on Newsmax immediately after the mayoral debate that was, hosted by NBC. Now, today we're gonna be here a couple of hours, so grab your tea. I've got my tea ready to go. I have so much to say that I don't even know where to start, but I just want to present information to you, information from people like us. Scott Lebedo, who is getting a lot of heat for his support of Curtis Sliwa. And today we are going to present and end with, the mayoral debate. So we're going to start backwards. I'm going to show you some of the reactions, some of the heat, some of where we are still. Like, you're not going to convince Sliwa supporters to vote for Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo is more of the same, more of what already created. The mess that we're in is like not only backwards thinking, it also feels really sinister to have people who have influence, who have money, try to scare New Yorkers or bully them or shame them from our God-given vote. I think it's distasteful. I think it's disgraceful. I think it's manipulative. And the New Yorker like me wants to almost say F you to people, right? Who come at me like that. Like, how dare you? You do what you want with your money, with your influence, and with your mouth. I'm doing what I want with my platform that I share here with my sister, which was founded on integrity, which was founded on sharing maybe those little nuances that people miss. Andrew Cuomo is no Mario Cuomo, to borrow the words of Curtis Sliwa. No one likes him. He doesn't stand a chance to win against Mamdani. He just can't. He already lost already. So how? I don't understand this thinking. If there is a chance here for something to be different than the outcome that is terrifying many New Yorkers, because they don't want Mamdani to be the mayor, there's only one solution here, and it's not the one you guys are thinking about. You can't correct a wrong by choosing the wrong that created and added to the wrong in the first place. That makes no mathematical sense. You can heal this and start healing New York by supporting a man. Maybe he's not perfect, but he loves New York and he's demonstrated it. He knows the subways. So many of what terrifies New Yorkers is having to navigate the subway system. He doesn't support the congestion pricing. A lot of real New Yorkers do not support congestion pricing. And, there are things about the Democratic Party that has become extremely elitist, my way or the highway kind of thinking. So let's hear from Uncle Scotty and let me know what you guys think. All right.
Sliwa ran away with it and did a great job. Scott, what's your thought about the debate? Who won it, and what were the highlights for you?
Well, first, I want to just acknowledge the disgust that I have for how those commentators treated Curtis Sliwa, who is not only a contender in this race, a legitimate contender, but also a man who deserves more respect than those other two that were on the stage. And they did not give him 59 seconds when they gave him, and they told everybody it was going to be a minute. They let Ma'am Dandy go on, and then give him follow-up questions. They did the same thing with Cuomo. Yeah. That was disrespectful. So Curtis is going to have this next debate that's coming up, and I am going to be telling him to come out swinging. Do not, if they broke the law, they said they broke the rules. The commentators broke the ruls by not giving Curtis his full time.
Well, there's always two sets of rules, right? There's a set of rules for
well, we
us
understand.
and everybody
We
else,
understand
right?
that. But now Curtis made more sense than anybody else. I want to say one other thing about Cuomo, and I get a lot of heat every day. I get emails, messages. I got friends, good friends, who are like throwing me under the bus because I'm the spoiler, because I'm a big backer for Curtis. I'm one of his secret weapons, and Curtis is not quitting. They're saying he's a spoiler. Let me let you folks know something. This is democracy. If you people claim that you're patriots, this is democracy. I have a right to vote and support who I want. Cuomo lost. He was out of this race. Everybody forgets he was out of it. Yeah. And then he came back in. That was Curtis's to win, because we obviously saw what happened to Adams. Sure. Curtis is still going to take this race. Curtis is going to wipe the floor with Ma'am Dandy once it comes down to it. I'm telling you.
Councilman, follow the rules. I guess my question to you, Scott, I'll ask this one to you. What could this mean for New York if Mondani is elected?
Listen, what needs to be addressed is the people of this city and how they are reacting to this. When are people going to learn that these liberal, woke, whether it's Cuomo or Ma'am Dandy, they move to the center during an election season? These people, you people out there in New York, if you were going to listen, it's like, you're listening to a $5 gypsy fortune teller on 42nd Street and believing everything they say. That's what you're doing. You're falling for this. This is what they do. They go to the center. Curtis Sliwa, every single day, we hear everybody say how great Curtis is. He is great. There is nothing wrong with him. Why aren't we moving our energy and flipping the script or the narrative like New York does on every subject? Sports, entertainment, politics. We flip that script like that. We need to do that, and we are going to do that in the next couple of weeks and put all that energy in front of the only man who can save this city. Not Cuomo. Cuomo equals 10 more Ma'am Dandies next year, 20 more the following year, and 100 4 years from now. You're kicking the can down the road. Cuomo created Ma'am Dandy, and I say his name incorrectly on purpose, and his cult followers of violent animals, okay? Curtis Sliwa, flip it, put your energy, stop being chicken, be New Yorkers.
Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, Scott, we do know, final 20 seconds to you. What's the real purpose of this quote, no Kings
this
rally?
America-hating rally, no Kings rally. I'm disappointed in all these creative people. This is not creative. You're going backwards to something, recycling some garbage. Come up with something better, like save the transgender Norwegian fruit fly. Or how about clouds? Clouds are too white. Clouds are racist. Really? These people have nothing to do, because there's no more from the river to the sea.
Okay, so that was Uncle Scotty's first reaction to the disgrace that was the mayoral debate that was hosted by NBC. I as a professional from the media, highly embarrassed. I am highly embarrassed of the production quality, the disrespect, the way you guys treated Curtis with such disrespect, like he was an afterthought when you have the answer in front of you right along. Not perfect, but a man who is wise enough to take counsel, because he knows New York City is fucked up. New York City is broke. We are having to make up from a deficit. Have we forgotten what happened in 2020? Have we forgotten how many people lost their livelihoods? Have we forgotten how many small businesses have eradicated, including ours? So many of our lives are not the same. So many of us are starting from scratch because of that man right there, Andrew Cuomo. And the audacity that some of you have slipping into my comments too, or blasting me. Oh, this one's a paid agent. I'm not taking any money. I would gladly support Curtis Sliwa and work for his campaign, but how? And we have been supporting Curtis Sliwa has been because we know and we believe in him. And because we started seeing and reading the media tea leaves, we understood what was going to happen. You know what also disgusted me about the mayoral debate, which is what we're going to finish with this evening. So kick back for the 2 hours. It's going to be 2 hours of fun, and maybe you'll feel irritated, and maybe you'll feel inspired like me, and maybe you'll feel anchored in your faith and wisdom to say, no, you will not bully me to defy my conscience and choose another way. And listen, I know politics is dirty. I don't expect anybody who wins to make miracles, but here's what I do feel, that Andrew Cuomo is the least committed to New York. He has the least energy for New York. He doesn't seem like he gives a fuck about real New Yorkers. And if he loses, which he probably will, because I don't see him winning in any way, in any scenario, is he going to even be in New York? No. So what is terrifying is that this is a moment in New York where if you are elite, out of touch, super like liberal, and you are not really understanding what real New Yorkers like me are saying, here's your wake-up call. Here's your wake-up call. Because it's either going to be Zohran Mamdani or everybody shows up and goes and votes for Curtis Sliwa. Andrew Cuomo doesn't have a shot in this. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So you guys ready for the next video? Let me share, stop the media. So yeah, no, it's been, I think I even got myself feeling a little bit under the weather just contemplating all this. So, you know, after the debate, you know, people are obviously, so this, before the debate, people were already getting at Curtis Sliwa like drop out. So here it is. Let me see. Okay.
The reason this is so on Mandami is because of the Democratic Party. They didn't fight their own battles. They turned their party over to the socialists. And now they want to come to us. Dormandlu, they want to say, oh, you're a Republican. We need your help. You can't possibly win. So help us, because we're falling and we can't get up. How even stand and defend their own party. So they want now you Republicans to become rent-direct Democrats, Hessians, mercenaries, to help Andy Cuomo.
No way.
Who didn't even campaign in the primary. No.
That's right. We didn't see him. He was like practically not around. That's what I'm saying. Like this guy, it's a sad state of affairs when you want to blame the people who have had absolutely no power here in you know, the conservative in New York. You want to blame us for being right or die for our candidate. Very interesting times. And here's another thing, guys, that I don't think you understand, right? Now, I'm saying this just from my point of view. I'm not speaking for anyone who is a staunch supporter of Curtis Sliwa. I think that there's also a morality thing here, right? Something that has to do with faith. Something, you know, when you love, and that love comes from something bigger than you, right? When it comes maybe for the love of your community, your people, for your love of God, the way that you move, you don't easily get swayed by what doesn't feel right. So you're not gonna change our minds. It's not gonna happen. So from having many tantrums to watching some people's ridiculous comments to laughing my ass off, like this whatever happens, if Zoran does win, that's a reflection of failed leadership and people who failed to show up and get engaged. That is a reflection of your inaction, your inability to see, and what you've allowed. This is a spiritual battle. We're in a spiritual war, and in some of the actions and commitments, and you know, you're not gonna change. You're not gonna get us to change our minds, especially because some of this has to do with what happened in 2020 when the world went dark, where most New Yorkers want to completely forget that dark time in history. But no, we are still facing very, very deep repercussions from that era. We need to address it, and we need to hopefully start healing from this dark stain in history. And this is yet another reason why I support Curtis Sliwa. So here is my little 2 cents and a little video that has gotten maybe 50, 60,000 views. And it's just me saying that I can't forgive Andrew Cuomo, so I can't vote for him. For mayor, I believe that he is the most sane choice for New York City at this time. So there is a lot of money in interest representing certain candidates. Then there's the socialism aspect, and then there's the working class people of New York City that many of us feel left behind. I think for the benefit of New York City, we need somebody who's kind of more in the middle. Curtis Sliwa for mayor. Why go with someone with no experience, and why go with the other who already lost against Mamdani and has disgraced New York? And not to mention, I could never forgive him for what he did and his policies, what and how many deaths they contributed to during the nursing home scandal. All of the nightmares that we as New Yorkers are witnessing as repercussions to some of the decisions that leadership has made. Not everyone is a Democrat, not everyone is a socialist, not everyone is progressive. Some of us are conservative and independent thinkers. So whoever does win, I really pray and hope that you do absolutely represent all of New York City. This is Rosangel of Capacita Break. I'd like to know what you're thinking. That's right. All right. So moving right along, let me share the next video. And this is a recent conversation with Nate Friedman, who chatted with Curtis Sliwa.
I think it is clear to New Yorkers who are...
And he asked him again, what's going on? How come? Do you see yourself as the spoiler? So let's see what he says. So let's play.
Against Mamdani, that you and Cuomo are splitting the anti-Mamdani vote. So my question is simple. Are you okay if Mamdani wins that you, so to speak, contributed to that?
Well, number one, Ackman is a jerk. Has he been right yet? Here's a guy who goes up to Newport, Rhode Island and thinks he's a professional tennis player. Come on, Ackman, stay in your lane. Does he know anything about politics? No. Does he live in New York City? No. He lives in Chapaka, the whitest suburb of America, where even the lawn jockeys are white. He may know Wall Street. He may know hedge funds. He has been wrong every step of the way with the billionaires. So let's say people come to the conclusion, if somehow I lose, and we know Andrew Cuomo's lost, he's already tossed in the town. Oh, it's because of you, Curtis. Really? It's because of the Democrats. Wait a second. Who created Zohran Mamdani? Who embraced him? Who nourished him? Who supported him? And how dare you, people who know nothing about politics, suggest that everybody who's going to vote for me is suddenly going to be reborn? We love Andrew Cuomo. He killed all these elderly. He's a sexual harasser. He told conservatives and Republicans in 2014, if you're conservative and you believe in right to life and the Second Amendment, you have no place in New York. You need to leave. This is the result of the Democrat self-destruction. So I'm supposed to help them? How come they don't help themselves? Andrew Cuomo failed everybody in that primary. He even admitted it. Now he's basically saying, I can't win without Sliwa votes. Where are your votes? Why don't you spend your money and he's got millions from the billionaires? Millions. Go out, get your own votes. Convert Sliwa voters. But for me to drop out, I represent a major party line. I have people running under me, council people, judges. They put their heart and soul into it. They support me. I have more donations than Andrew Cuomo does, matching funds. So you know something? This is called voting. Sure. Since when do we not let people vote? Billionaires determine the next mayor? If they don't like it, they can leave. They have options. Blue-collar working class people don't. Those are the people I'm representing, not Andrew Cuomo. Sure.
Punto. Well stated. I really enjoyed that clip, and that comes from the the Nate Friedman show. All right, let's move right along. Remember, everyone, this is transmitting via Cafecito Break, and we are live Monday, 8 p.m. evening. Tomorrow, we have a doubleheader, so make sure you tune in. Let's check out the next clip. So I'm going to share a little interview that was hosted on PIX with Curtis Sliwa. Again, this took place after the debate. And then after this is about 22 minutes. And then after that, we are going to replay the mayoral debate so that you guys can see for yourself. The audience who tuned in, it was the way it was presented. It was presented as if this was a two-man battle. The collusion with the money machine and the media machine and the Democratic machine, they want to, mind control us into thinking that, Andrew Cuomo is the man of the people. You can't fool a New Yorker. You can't fool a New Yorker. We see right through the bullshit. I just can't believe it. I've had so many chuckles lately. So, okay, let's check out this interview.
Curtis Sliwa, once again the Republican nominee for New York City mayor, with the confidence he can win it all.
Do the math. A little bit more, and I'm the next mayor of the city of New York.
No shortage of headlines in this race, including accusations of bribery to get Sliwa to drop out.
Come on, Curtis. Everybody has a price. Curtis Sliwa doesn't have a price.
And while some see him as a spoiler candidate, keeping votes away from Andrew Cuomo's challenge to Zohran Mamdani, Sliwa disagrees.
You think my supporters are going to vote for Cuomo?
I don't know, but I think they don't want...
Staying true to his message.
And it's all about, for me, public safety, crime.
But with so many issues driving voters to the poll, we're getting Curtis Sliwa on the record for it all.
This is a special edition of Picks on Politics with Dan Manarino. Race for New York City Mayor. One-on-one with the candidates.
And welcome to a special edition of Picks on Politics, everybody. I'm Dan Manarino. Our second episode here in our three-part series where I'm going one-on-one with the top three candidates for New York City Mayor. No issues off the table, the answers you need to hear before casting your vote. And today, Curtis Sliwa joins the show, and he is joining me now. So great to have you back here on Picks on Politics. Good to see you.
Oh, my pleasure, Dan. And if you notice, without the beret.
Is this the new thing from now until Election Day? No beret?
Oh, yeah. Look, some people have said, I can't take you seriously. I can't think of you as being mayoral with the red beret on your head. And so I just decided, look, if that is the one reason you might not vote for me, I wasn't born with a beret on my head. When I die, I won't have a beret. So no beret. And I think I proved last night in that debate that I was very mayoral.
Let's talk about the debate, right? You needed to have this breakout moment to gain momentum. Post-debate, you said, I absolutely won. So what was your breakout moment when you look back at the 2-hour debate?
You know, the NBC4, who were the moderators, I could tell in the first 10 minutes were treating me like a person of no consequence. I was right there in the middle. We had drawn lots. And I'm saying, wow, they're not even coming to me. And I was just listening to both my adversaries, and it was like the primary debate all over again, nothing new. Remember that group, that French MTV group, Daft Punk? Mm-hmm. You know, where it was like very robotic? Cuomo was saying the very same things. Zoran, everything, his answer was affordability. Could have been a question about global warming, climate change, affordability.
Well, that's what he's running on.
Parks, affordability. But come on, there were so many issues to discuss. And I think what people recognize from me is that I was breaking out with a lot of ideas that neither of those two introduced any new ideas. It was basically the same old, same old.
You seemingly went after Andrew Cuomo more than you did Zoran Mamdani during the debate. At one point you said to Andrew Cuomo, you are no Mario Cuomo. So was it your strategy going in to go after Andrew Cuomo more than Zoran Mamdani? In fact, sometimes during the debate you said, I agree with you. And he said, I agree with you.
You mean both of the candidates agreed with me again and again and again. That was the one thing that came out. Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani agreed with me 3 times, Andrew Cuomo 2 times. So that made me the winner. But the reason is I'm listening to Andrew reinvent himself. He's Andrew 2025, not 2019, without any apologies. And now he's all pro-police. And I'm saying, well, we have to remind everybody out there. This is the guy who in 8 years, his parole board released 43 cop killers. And I turned to him and I said, Mario Cuomo, your father was governor for 12 years, never released 1 cop killer. I knew Mario Cuomo. You know Mario Cuomo, Andrew. I had to do that because this guy, in his attempt to reinvent himself as the law and order candidate, has failed us.
So let me talk about these moments before the debate began last night. A Fox News poll came out. First time it had Zoran Mamdani cracking the 50% threshold. Andrew Cuomo 28%, you at 14%. And with those numbers out, you said after the debate that it's time for Andrew Cuomo to step aside and let this become a 2-man race. Why should he drop out when he's double your numbers?
He's reached his plateau. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to get any new voters. And by the way, that Fox News poll in the area of crime, it had Zoran Mamdani getting 40%, me only 26%. What if Fox News, did they question shoplifters, pimps, prostitutes, people doing drive-by shootings, gang members? Everybody knows that's his weakest subject. So I take that poll, I throw it right out the window as not being relevant. And it had Andrew Cuomo as being trusted and honest at 50%. Now, this is the guy who's facing perjury charges by the Department of Justice. So the results of that poll cannot be at all fathomed.
That's not just the only poll, though, that has you that far below Andrew Cuomo. So that's why I'm wondering why you want him to drop out when he's asking for you to drop out.
Dan, he's got no gas left in the tank. Again, the old hackneyed expressions. He's not out in the streets. He's running the same campaign he did in the primary. He's going to get the same results. Andrew Cuomo lost that campaign in the primary. His own Democrats turned on him. But this is a guy who can't understand what no means in so many ways. So out with the old, in with the new. Clearly, I won the debate last night. I came in with so many new ideas. I said, wait, to keep our seniors here, if you're 65 and you make $265,000 or less and own a home, no property tax. We got to cut property tax. We got to cut income tax for the 19 to 28-year-olds. Because we need them to stay here if they've gone to school here. Look at all these. I said we got to retrofit all of the office space here that equals 25 Empire State Buildings, do it in the dense areas. I was opposed to the city of, the lithium-ion battery warehouses. here was Zoran Mandami saying, affordability, affordability, affordability. And then all that Andrew Cuomo wanted to talk about was Hamas, Hamas, Hamas.
Okay.
There were so many more issues that you got to cover when you're mayor.
Back to the calls of you dropping out. I know that you want Andrew Cuomo to drop out. Have you two actually had a conversation about either of those options?
No, none whatsoever. But remember, there was a push for me to drop out when Andrew Cuomo got beaten in the Democratic primary by Zoran Mandami, June 24th. Then all the billionaires were running over with their billions to Eric Adams. He was the Mashiach, the savior. Boy, he was one and done. Then they all started running over to Cuomo. So there's been that constant drumbeat. I'm saying, but I'm the only Republican. I'm the only law and order candidate. Remember, last night on the stage, I said, look, here's the architect, here's the apprentice. No cash bail, raise the age, close Rikers Island.
Yeah.
They agree on all these issues because they have this same philosophy about crime. It's pro-criminal, and I'm pro-victim.
I heard you say many times that you received calls to drop out, you received bribes to drop out. Have those stopped?
Yes, because remember, I put them on blast. That's the street term that if you make another call to me, I'm wired up like a Christmas tree. Probably the investigators of Alvin Bragg will be listening to your call because it's not only unethical and a bribe, but it could be criminal.
Much of the debate last night focused on President Trump, who have repeatedly, you have said, is no friend of yours. President Trump just said the Gateway Tunnel project was terminated. And after Congress approved billions of dollars to get the tunnel done connecting both New York and New Jersey. What do you think of that move to terminate that project?
Well, you see, I took a different approach than my two adversaries. They were filled with testosterone crashing from their cranium. They just want to fight Donald Trump, and they're each trying to, I'll fight him hard. I said, well,
but on the Gateway Tunnel.
On the Gateway, but also coupled with that was the 2nd Avenue continuation of the subway. So I would have said, you don't fight Donald Trump. He's got all the cards. He's got New York City by the short hairs. You negotiate. You say, we'll give up the 2nd Avenue 3 stations that are not needed on the Q train line. But the Gateway project moves millions and millions of people from Washington, D.C. to Boston. It's important for the whole Northeast coast. And you negotiate. Remember, President Trump, one thing I've learned, he wants to be respected. He wants you to know he's in charge, and he likes the art of the deal. He likes when you come to him and say, okay, I'll give you this, but can you give me that? These two guys basically are bumping chests. I can out-tough Trump. You can't.
So you think you can get the Gateway to be unterminated, even though he said it's because of Chuck Schumer?
Right. I think you have to go in there and you have to deal, first of all, with the people that he's assigned to this.
Okay.
And see it coming down the pipe. Remember, Trump always signals things that are coming ahead of time. So preemptively get ahead of the curve, because once he makes a declarative statement, it's hard to walk it back. You saw what happened to Zelensky when he walked into the White House and had that meeting with Trump. Notice how quickly Zelensky walked that back. He wasn't going to out-tough Trump. You can't out-tough Trump. And look, I'm the toughest guy of both those guys if you combine them together.
Also in the debate, you said the greatest mayor of New York City was Rudy Giuliani, who also endorsed you. He has close ties to President Donald Trump, right? And who you distance yourself from. Is the Rudy Giuliani today that you're accepting the endorsement from the same Rudy Giuliani that you knew when he was mayor?
Well, then, obviously, he was totally focused, law and order, saving the city, which he did. I supported him in his first run against David Dinkins, which he lost, and the second run in '93. And the important thing was, and I keep reiterating this as I did last night, Rudy won. It helped the city recover. Pataki won the next year. Nobody knew George.
But is the Rudy Giuliani today,
yes,
since he was mayor, and has now become close to President Trump, is he the same Rudy Giuliani today? Is he the same that a New Yorker respected back then? There are
people who still respect him. I differ with him on some of the issues he took about the voting. I believe Joe Biden won the election in 2020 fair and square. We've had those discussions. But you can agree to disagree and still be a member of the same party in the Republican Party. Well, when it comes to law and order, he considers me
He had some criminal dealings as well. He had to settle some things in court. And you often go after Eric Adams for having a criminal background. Isn't Rudy Giuliani, can he be similar?
Oh, my God. We're talking about theft. We're talking about straw donors. We're talking about taking foreign money, dark money, to alter an election. It's far different than what Rudy Giuliani was being charged with.
Let's talk about crime. You said that NYPD needs an additional 7,000 police officers. Andrew Cuomo's called for an additional 5,000. Blair Boyer, who Facebook, she's one of our viewers, she wrote this: how can we attract more people to join NYPD with DAs in place that just release criminals within hours of being arrested? What do you say to Blair?
Well, as I pointed out, the biggest impediment always has been in the past, that's why you got to be in the streets and subways and talk with people, which I do all the time, was the referrals that dads and moms who were police would make to their children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. And there was usually like 2/3 of the recruits could say, oh, there have been police in my family. Now, the first thing the police will tell their siblings, don't join the police because you have no qualified immunity. Now, that's a difficult term to understand. Basically, the insurance that protects all civil servants. What I brought up in last night's debate, Tom DiNapoli says we're paying out $60 million in the sexual harassment cases made against Andrew Cuomo. He's protected because they were done when he was governor. Cops can be now personally sued. So nobody wants to join a police department where you know you have to do physical intervention and you can be personally sued. So that has to be dealt with.
Timeline to get to that 7,000. How long does it take to get to that number?
Well, you can actually do what Boston has done, which is payment in lieu of taxes. You go after Columbia, you go after NYU, which now owns massive real estate. You go after...
Timeline, how long?
Jimmy Dell. It's going to take you a year. Remember, you have to not only recruit them, you got to train them, they got to graduate the academy and college.
So you think in 1 year you can get that number to 7,000?
Oh, I think we can. And I think we can get the money if we follow the Boston approach.
You've said this week that you'd consider keeping Jessica Tisch. So is that a yes? Would you keep Jessica Tisch, or are you looking at other options?
Look, we needed stability in the police department. Remember, before she assumed becoming police commissioner, we had crooked Eddie Caban. We had Jeffrey Maddrey on the 13th floor, who was like the sequel to Caligula. We had Timothy Pearson, corrupt. We had,
yes.
Right, we had...
yes, you'd keep Jessica Tisch.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the one thing I would do differently is she runs the police department, any police commissioner. You have a disagreement behind closed doors. I don't need to be at her press conferences. What is Eric Adams doing at her press conferences? She's the police commissioner. She's in charge. She calls the shots. They should be separate from City Hall.
All right, more with Curtis Sliwa coming up as we dive deeper into his plans for New York City, from affordability to tackling the important topic of mental health here in New York City. We're back in just 2 minutes.
You're watching Picks on Politics with Dan Manarino. Race for New York City Mayor.
Okay, before we listen to the next part of this interview, I just want to say thank you, everyone who's tuning in. Every single time we keep hearing, this is the most important election. I don't know. What I do know is that New Yorkers are very nervous about this election cycle. What I do know is that the young people and out of touch humans are supporting Zoran. He is speaking their language. He is doing something that Andrew Cuomo has never accomplished, which is talking to that New Yorker that feels invisible, that feels unseen, that feels like they are trying to survive in a city that's almost impossible, but yet, like, I don't like where this is going. And so, yeah, my advice to whomever is tuning in is, this is a moment where if you feel called to action, get involved. If you feel like your call to action is, I want to support this campaign, well, part of the reason that I'm sitting here on a Sunday night where I could maybe be hanging out with my family, instead I'm using my platform to do this, is because I really believe that this is important. I'm doing this for New York. I'm doing this for the city that I love. Why? Because as you will see once we wrap with the New York City mayoral debate that was hosted by NBC, you'll see the bullshit that debate was. The elitism, like, no. And the stupid questions that were asked that some of it had nothing to do with what New Yorkers really want to know about. Some of it did, but then there was a lot of, like, blaming Trump. Do you know how much conservatives and Republicans and independent thinkers and everybody in between, do you know how exhausted we are of hearing people continuously mention Trump when it has to do with New York City affairs? He has nothing to do with this New York City mayoral race. But yet, Zoran spent so much time mentioning him during the debate. It's like, are you here clout chasing? Or are you here, because you're like, that's what it seemed to me, big dog clout chasing. Like, you're not ready to be the leader of New York. You're not. So this is why I'm here on a Sunday night. And how you guys, whoever may be listening, how you can be supportive to New York, to Curtis Sliwa, is get involved. There are a lot of campaign offices, in the city. You know how many of the people that I know are taking time after they leave work, making a stop to one of a local campaign office, picking up materials, going to a neighborhood, and they are doing volunteer work on their own, putting up poster boards, talking to people. This is what I'm talking about. This is the spirit of New York, of real New York, saying, I don't like the way the city is moving, and I'm going to do what I can, even if what that is putting up some flyers. Don't discount what God has called you to do. I can only reach but so many people. But if you share this, if you comment, if you like, if you privately email it to someone, if you tell the people, hey, get out to vote, Doñita, no, I know you don't want to know nothing about politics, pero vamos a ir, yo te voy a llevar. Each one reach one. Tell someone, please. Let's continue this discussion.
And welcome back to Picks and Politics, everybody. Continuing the conversation now with Curtis Sliwa. So, Curtis, I want to talk about housing. It's a really important topic for so many. You've talked about the need for more housing, right? You oppose Mayor Adams' City of Yes. You oppose the ballot proposals to expedite housing. So what is your plan to get immediate housing and bring down some of the rents?
I think you just look to Manhattan, northern Brooklyn, and northern Queens, where you already have density housing. A lot of conversions taking place of office space that'll never be used. Is 25 Empire State Buildings worth of office space that'll never be used again because of the way business is done. Virtually, people work from home. So do the conversion right away to affordable apartments. 50% of them should be affordable. Help the developers, but keep them in these dense areas where you already have infrastructure. You have transportation, you have schools. In the outer boroughs, you will destroy the residential makeup, and it will cause people to leave their homes and flee. I want people to improve, not to move. That's why you live in a residential area. And that can be done because it's already being done, but we need to expedite it. If you build a brand new building for 300 apartments, Dan, it takes 5 years from beginning to end. If you convert an office building that's empty because they have nobody coming in who wants to have an office there, it takes 1 year to turn it around.
Rosalinda Toll, one of our viewers, asked on Facebook, what is his plan with NYCHA, especially that it lacks accountability and true transparency? So what do you say to Rosalinda?
Well, first thing is you have 6,000 apartments that are vacant in NYCHA. The mayor controls that. I would immediately move families with children in who may be living in shelter systems. We don't want them living in shelters. And I would offer the NYCHA residents who are facing demolition every day, developers are eyeing their property, especially along the East River, both sides, Manhattan and Queens. You have a right to own your own apartment. Jack Kemp, who is a great Secretary of HUD, Republican, former congressman from the Buffalo area, was in the Reagan administration, came up with a great idea where the tenants could actually own their apartment units like you have co-ops and condos at a very small price with help from the federal government. You know who turned him down on that? My fellow Republicans. The Democrats said, wow, that is a wonderful idea. I would revive that. You give people ownership, even though they're contributing a minimal amount.
What about leadership?
Excuse me?
What about leadership at NYCHA?
Oh, leadership at NYCHA, it's dysfunctional. It's absolutely dysfunctional. You go from housing development to housing development. There is a corrupt strain of kickbacks going from everybody who is providing services. You streamline that approach. There's so much waste in NYCHA. And by the way, Trump has already signaled he's cutting the federal funding for NYCHA, which is about 70%. So
we have
that. Excuse me?
Do you agree with that?
No, of course. You want to meet with him. You want to try to negotiate less of a solid hit on public housing. But we really do have to get our house in order.
I'm hearing you talk about a lot of negotiations, but it sounds like you'd have to give stuff up to get what you want.
Well, what are you going to do? Go to court and fight forever? And meantime, the tenants will be displaced. You know, New York City residents will suffer if this becomes a macho maniacal battle between Donald Trump, Andrew Cuomo, or Zohran Mamdani. And by the way, Zohran Mamdani, you know, everything is affordability. In the next debate, I'm going to say, Zohran, you already have a plan. You can't deliver on any of these promises of free, because it's fantasy, not reality. And when you can't do it, who's he going to blame? Donald Trump. Of course, that's always the fallback.
Talk about mental health. It's a big issue for many around here.
I just have to comment because this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. The Democratic leadership has become the party of non-accountability. Something goes wrong. Oh, nothing to see here. Let me see who I could look. Let me look around. Let me look around to my left and my right. Yeah, I'm going to blame someone that's not me or my actions or my party's actions. That's insanity. Why do you think so many folks have walked away? Why do you think so many people are walking away? When you make it all about Trump, this is why I called this out the other day and people got upset and I said, your Trump derangement syndrome has ruined your relationship with me, with us. Why? Because you just can't stop bringing him up. Oh, I went to the bathroom and the bathroom doesn't work. It's Trump's fault. That's how ridiculous the conversations have gotten. And to me, what I see about Mamdani is that he just has Trump too much in his mouth, man. Like, and then there's some things that I have to say, like to the folks that aren't reading the room here. And some folks might get a little bit upset with me, but if you don't understand why some people are supporting Mamdani is because he's the only one in the Democratic primary debate that was like not going to be focusing on outside of New York, if you know what I mean, and if you're reading the room, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. He said he didn't have an interest to be going on little trips like we see a lot of candidates do. He had an interest to only serve New York. And if you don't understand that, that's a huge reason why he won so many other voters. You're not reading the cafecito break tea leaves here. I'm trying to share them with you. Real New Yorkers have been trying to share it with you. You've got, as Curtis mentioned earlier, you've got people with money and influence trying to bully blue-collar folks for their vote. ¿Qué clase de pantalones es eso? It's taking everything, every ounce of me to be respectful and professional. But I am not happy with this. I am not happy with the state of media. I think that the media is such a big reason why we are in this mess. And, you know, it's not enough for you to say, I'm just one small part. I'm just here reading the news. I'm just here reporting the news. No, if you're part of it, you're part of it. We can't keep pushing the can down the road. This is where we're at right now. If you don't understand the isness, you're not really in the present moment with the rest of us. There's no way in hell we're going to support Andrew Cuomo. There's no way in hell Mamdani supporters are going to support Andrew Cuomo because he represents everything we fucking hate about New York. Elitist. Doesn't really care. It's almost like we're bugs to him. I rarely have seen him in any of the Boots Underground events that I don't actually, I've never seen him except for once. And that was one time because I visited and I got the chance to see the Crane's mayoral debate. He barely looked at the crowd that was there to see him. He focused most of his time looking at the people asking him questions. So, how dare you just be so easy with your words? And you do have the right to say them just as I do. Oh, that it's your fault. It's going to be Sliwa's fault. It's going to be Sliwa supporters' fault. No, honey. No, sweetie pie. It's the folks that have been in leadership. And it's the sweet, beautiful media collusion that keeps happening. But it's okay because Mamacita here, Mama Ra, we're going to end after this conversation. We're going to wrap up and you get to see for yourself the disgrace that was the mayoral debate. Disgusting is what I would rate the way that debate was moderated. Disgusting. Disgusting.
Often said homeless need dignity and they need privacy. You blame the state for failing to reopen mental health hospitals. So how would you get, as a mayor, more space to house some of the folks who need the beds, the bed capacity? Is it a mayoral issue or is it a state issue?
It's a combination, but more mayoral when you're talking about our homeless. Now, Zoran Mandami, again, fantasy, not reality. He wants to house them in empty storefronts in the subway system. I'm the only candidate in the. You go into the shelters that exist. There are over 300 that the Department of Homeless Services run. They're poorly run. It's Darwinian, survival of the fittest. Those who are considered weak feel they have to leave. You make it safe and secure. You provide them with services. You don't kick them out at 7 in the morning and make them come back at 10 at night. That's not helping them. I know because I've been in a third of the shelters in the city of New York.
Do you have the money for that? Where do you get the money?
It's not a question of money. It's a question of streamlining and making sure that you are providing security. The security officers are already there. I would revive the Homeless Outreach Unit, which used to be part of the NYPD. These were dedicated men and women cops who, by the way, had medical practitioners with them when they took care of the emotionally disturbed and the homeless in the subways and the streets. They were disbanded when Bill de Blasio and the city council danced the tarantella while pulling $1 billion out of the budget in the summer of 2020. It worked then, it'll work again. You never invent anything. Like Zoran Mandami was talking about, oh, well, Eugene, Oregon has this great plan for the emotionally disturbed. I looked at him, said, have you ever been in Eugene? I have. Are you out of your mind? This is New York City. Again, fantasy, not reality.
We're going to leave it right there. More with Curtis Sliwa when we come back. And I'm back with Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, let me ask you this. On the ballot this year, many people know that there's extra measures, not just voting for mayor. And there is this move to move elections to presidential years. It would give the mayor a longer first term. Do you support that? Are you a yes or no on that vote?
Absolutely not. This mayoral election proves that. It's received worldwide attention because of the dynamics. If you're running in a presidential year, how much time is going to be spent not just on mayoral elections, but the 51 city councilmanic elections? No. It's too important a position, too many city council people, important to be able to get their message out. It'll be drowned out. And by the way, you won't have a two-party system. You'll have a one-party system because it'll be all Democrat all the time.
If you don't win this election, will you run for office again?
Wow, that's a big question that you're asking there, Dan. I intend on doing one thing. If I happen to lose, no matter who it's to. I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay and fight for what I know is right and improve, not move.
So could run again for something?
I have no idea. I mean, look, it's a question of, do people want you to run for something? People have always urged me to run. That's why I'm running. That's why this professional political class out there cackling away. Well, you're not a real candidate. Hey, I'm a Republican populist who represents working class people. Understand, there's a change in the Republican Party. It's an urban Republican Party. And I think I've become the leader of it.
I'm up against the clock here, 30 seconds left. You said last night on the debate that $175 is what you spend in groceries. This question got a lot of attention from people wanting to know, well, where does he buy his groceries?
Oh, all over the place, wherever I can, because remember, I'm campaigning 20 hours a day. At times, my wife says, hey, it's your turn to go out. She takes care of our cats. I take care of buying the groceries.
So where do you go?
$5, well, right around the corner, right? Fairways. It's right there on the west side where I live. $5 for a gallon of milk, $3 for a loaf of bread. The prices are too high to pay.
All right, Curtis Sliwa, giving everybody equal time. Great to have you back here on Picks on Politics. And we'll be right back.
Apologies, I just realized that I was on mute. I want to make a statement regarding that question that you guys will see if you missed the mayoral debate. And by the way, there's another one coming up this Wednesday, so please stay tuned. And it's with all three of them. That question, they all said they spent under $200. Or let me be more specific, under $175. I think it was between $150 to $175. If I'm not mistaken, that was their response. A week is, I'm confused. Where are you buying your groceries? Because I feel like so many of us are spending that just for a couple of days. That's not a week. That's really weird. I don't know. People do get creative, and there are a lot of people going to 5 and 6 shopping markets just to catch the deals. So I don't know. That was one of those little moments where I was like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. All right, let's move right along. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You are listening to Cafecito Break. I'm your host, Rosangel Pérez, reminding you that we are live every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are focusing on the New York City election. And tomorrow we have a doubleheader. Stay tuned. And make sure you tell a friend and you share, subscribe. We are live on X, YouTube, and Rumble. All right. So this is Curtis Sliwa speaking on The Breakfast Club.
Tell you straight up, the billionaires are not going to determine who the next mayor of New York City is. Let the people decide. I trust people. I don't trust billionaires. I don't trust the professional political class. They are not going to choose the mayor. Let the people decide. If they choose Orhan Mandami, I'm not running away. Like Andrew Cuomo said, oh, if he becomes mayor, I'm going to run to Florida. I stay. I improve. I don't move. I was born in New York. They tried to kill me in New York. The Gattis and Gambino shot me 5 times with hollow point bullets in June of 1992. And even when I survived, I never had armed security after that. Today, I walk into your studios here. I have armed security with me, former NYPD cops. Why? Because I wouldn't take the payout from the billionaires to drop out.
How much did they offer you? I saw you on the news a few weeks ago say that. You was like, if one more billionaire calls me and offers me money to drop out, I'm going to record the call and put it out.
They'll be talking to Alvin Bragg, the DA. But
how much did they
$10 million with Jeeves, stretch limo, chauffeur, no-show job. Eric got the same offer.
What you pulling that like?
Yep. Behese bochinche. That's what I'm saying. Like, this mayoral race is bigger than just the polls. It's really literally like big money influence, out of touch folks trying to tell real New Yorkers how to vote. And we are tired of the mess. We're tired of the mess. We are tired of the mess. Okay, let's move along. Let's play the next clip. Da, 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 da. Okay. My heavens on earth. Okay, all right. So we are going to now play the mayoral debate on NBC that was hosted on NBC. See for yourself. Just want to say that if you love New York, go out and vote. Take a friend, tell a friend. Don't ever, 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 ever allow anyone to shame or bully you from exercising your right to vote. Many people sacrificed themselves for us to have this right. And I know that politics is crooked, and I know that there are a lot of politics, but there are a lot of good people that are attracted to running because they know they can create change, and some change has been created. The way to move forward right now is to work together. When Curtis Sliwa was asked, wait, oh my God, you would actually negotiate with Donald Trump? Yeah, that's what happens in business. That's what adults do. That's what anybody in any relationship does. Relationships of any kind are not one my way or the highway. It's not I know better than you. That doesn't work. That's not equal. You know, if you've been in a relationship, or if you are in a relationship like that, whether it's with your family, your colleagues, your someone you love, you don't feel good. This is how it feels to be connected, to have friends who are Democrats, for example. Or, like, stop. We have God-given right to choose, just like we have the God-given right to breathe. And some folks in 2020 wanted to take that right away from us by asking us to mask up, by asking us to shut up. And so we never will. So let's tune in to the beautiful, upsetting, disgusting production of NBC and the way they just you will see. You will just see. You will see the way and who they favor. And this is why I'm here on a Sunday night sharing this with you, to try to help balance the coverage. There's big media is giving a lot of press to Zoran and Cuomo. They're starting to give more press to Curtis Sliwa because the people, regular folks, are making noise because they're starting to realize, and we only have a short window to make this impact, that we are not going to go into the night quiet. Some say that this is a David versus Goliath moment. I don't know. But the choice is yours. You guys know where we stand. I love you. Thank you for hanging out with me, and enjoy the next 2 hours. Okay. Hold on a second. It's not playing. Let me remove it. Let me see if I can put in another video while I get that one queued up. Stand by, guys. Done. Okay, so while I look for the other video for the debate, and what I would like to say is that some people don't believe in the vote, and I can understand that. But I also believe that there's been an intentional weaponization in urging people, especially in inner cities or people, brown and black communities, to not vote. I think that does a disservice to us as a population. And this is my thought process. If you don't go out to vote, if you don't show up in mass and overwhelm the system, how do you know? How do you know? What is clear to us is that we've relied too much on people who have not been kind to us. You know, they have not, we've relied too much on people who looked like us, who sounded like us. You know, a great example is AOC. People were so happy with AOC. ¿Y qué pasó con eso? You know? Okay, I think I found it. All right, I found it. I found it, guys. Thank you for bearing with me so much. Let me share the screen. Dios mío. All right. Hopefully this works this time. Thank you again for tuning in.
This is a 2-hour debate live on all NBC New York and Telemundo 47 streaming and digital platforms, Politico.com, Telexitos, and YouTube. The first hour is also live on Channel 4 and Telemundo 47. We do have a few rules for the candidates. For traditional question and answer, you'll have 1 minute to respond, and we'll offer 30-second rebuttals at the moderator's discretion. We'll also be asking questions where we will be looking for shorter answers. We also reserve the right to cut off your microphone if you ignore the rules. With candidates, you know we don't want to do that. The goal is for you to hear each other and for New Yorkers to hear everything you have to say. Good luck. We'll begin with Melissa Russo.
Thank you, David, and good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for being here. We begin tonight by asking you to do what every mayor dreams of, and that is to write your own headlines. Imagine it's January 2027, and you have been in office for exactly 1 year. We would like you to quickly give us one headline about what you think your biggest accomplishment will have been in year number 1. We'll begin with you, Mr. Cuomo.
First, thank you very much for sponsoring the debate and having all of us. The one headline, how many characters in the headline?
You know, you're familiar with headline length.
Rent down, comma, crime down, comma, education scores up, comma, more jobs in New York City.
Now we're getting maybe a little over the average headline length, but
optimism high.
Thank you. Mr. Sliwa.
Curtis Sliwa is without his iconic red beret because I'm talking to the people of New York City about the really serious issues of affordability, the cost of living, and obviously what I've spent most of my life doing, which is public safety in the streets and the subways.
We would love a headline from you. What will your headline be, your big headline in year number 1 as mayor?
Curtis Sliwa exceeds all expectations and looks very mayoral tonight.
Mr. Mamdani, you've had some time to think about it now. What's your headline?
It's a pleasure to be here, first of all, and I really want to thank the moderators and the opportunity to speak directly to New Yorkers about this moment in time and our opportunity to transform the most expensive city in the United States of America. The headline would read, in about a year, Mamdani continues to take on Trump, delivers on affordability agenda for New Yorkers.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Sally?
Thank you, Melissa. We're going to talk about leadership. Voters have reservations about all three of you as chief executive of New York City, a city with roughly 300,000 employees and a budget bigger than many countries. We have questions for each of you, and Mr. Cuomo, we will begin with you. As a former governor of New York, you obviously have the management experience, but you resigned from office amid sexual harassment and COVID-related scandals. Why should voters now trust that you have the character to be mayor? You have 1 minute.
Good. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the question. First, you are right. I left office. There was a report that was done that had allegations of harassment. I said at the time it was a political report and that there was no basis to it. It was then sent to 5 district attorneys. They all reviewed it. They found nothing. It was then litigated for 5 years. I was dropped from the cases. So none of that came to anything. when it comes to executive experience, I've run the Department of Housing and Urban Development, built housing all across the nation. I was governor for 11 years. The budget is double what it is in New York City, and I got government to work. I passed groundbreaking laws, minimum wage, paid family leave, built projects that had never been built before. This is no job for on-the-job training. And if you look at the failed mayors, they're ones that had no management experience. Don't do it again.
Thank you. Rosalina?
Thank you, Sally. In the theme of leadership, Mr. Mamdani, you work as a foreclosure prevention counselor for a winning seat in the State Assembly. You have no substantial management experience. How are you ready to lead the nation's largest and greatest city in the world in one day? You have a minute.
You know, I have the experience of having served in the New York State Assembly for 5 years and watching a broken political system, the experience of seeing a governor in Andrew Cuomo who would rather have served his billionaire donors and the working class New Yorkers who voted for him, and the experience amidst all of that of fighting and winning for working class taxi drivers to free them from predatory debt and delivering the first free bus lines in New York City history, and in working with unions and working class New Yorkers to finally raise taxes just that little bit on Mr. Cuomo's donors to start to fully fund our public school. And more than that, I have the experience of being a New Yorker, someone who has actually paid rent in the city before I ran for mayor, someone who has had to wait for a bus that never came, someone who actually buys his groceries in this same city. And what all of that experience has shown me, which Mr. Cuomo can't seem to understand, is that it is far too expensive and far too hard for New Yorkers to afford to live in this city. And the definition of experience is not doing the same thing again and again and hoping for a different result. That's actually the definition of insanity.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
If I can, I think I was invoked.
Yes.
In other words, what the Assemblyman said is he has no experience. And this is not a job for someone who has no management experience to run 300,000 people, no financial experience to run $115 billion budget. He literally has never had a job. On his resume, it says he interned for his mother. This is not a job for a first-timer. Any day, you could have a hurricane, you have, God forbid, a 9/11, a health pandemic. If you don't know what you're doing, people could die.
Mr. Mamdani, want to respond?
And if we have a health pandemic, then why would New Yorkers turn back to the governor who sent seniors to their death in nursing homes? That's the kind of experience that's on offer here today. What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity. And what you don't have in integrity, you could never make up for in experience.
Yes. May I? First, what you said was totally false, as you know.
Which part was false?
During COVID, everyone did whatever they could in this state. And there have been numerous investigations where they've gone through it, and they said we followed federal guidance. But yes, people died during COVID, and my heart breaks for everyone that died in this state and across this nation.
But just to be clear, just to fact check that, there is a criminal investigation reportedly underway at the DOJ about your testimony to Congress about your nursing home record.
Yeah, but that is a political issue with the Congress. They made a referral, which has gone absolutely nowhere. But there have been multiple investigations where the DOJ found that the nursing home investigation was politically motivated.
Okay, we're going to move on. We might have time to come back to it. I do need to move on to Mr.
But may I
Sliwa.
just finish my rebuttal? But the Assemblyman still says he has no experience to do the job.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Sliwa, as founder of the Guardian Angels and as a radio host, you've been a well-known figure in New York City for decades. But you also lack substantial management experience. So how are you prepared to be the chief executive officer of New York City? You have 1 minute, Mr. Sliwa.
First of all, I created the Guardian Angels to provide public safety in the subways and streets when government was incapable of doing so. I didn't do it to get a title or a paycheck. Secondarily, I don't declare myself to be all-knowing. I will hire the very brightest and best in their fields who have dedicated their lives to trying to improve the city of New York or the state or the federal government or the private sector. But what I will say is, thank God I'm not a professional politician. We have the architect and we have the apprentice of no cash bail, which has been a disaster. We have the architect and the apprentice here of Raise the Age. My own son was almost killed because of that in a gang attack. We have the architect and we have the apprentice of Close Rikers Island, which would just release criminals in the street. Thank God I'm not a professional politician, because they have helped create this crime crisis in the city that we face, and I will
Thank you,
resolve.
Mr. Sliwa.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa. Candidates, President Trump has expressed intense interest in this election and in all of you personally. Mr. Mamdani, the president called you, quote, my little communist. Mr. Sliwa, he said you're, quote, not exactly prime time. And Mr. Cuomo, he has been critical of you, but said you have always gotten along. The president has threatened to cut federal funds to the city. And just yesterday, he killed the Gateway Project, the tunnel connecting New York to New Jersey. You've all promised to resist him in some way. What would you say in your first official call with the president to set the tone for your relationship moving forward? We'll give you a minute for this. We'll start with you, Mr. Mamdani.
I would make it clear to the president that I am willing to not only speak to him, but to work with him if it means delivering on lowering the cost of living for New Yorkers. That's something that he ran his presidential campaign on, and yet all he's been able to deliver thus far has been prosecuting his political enemies and trying to enact the largest deportation program in American history. And what distinguishes me from Andrew Cuomo is the fact that he has gotten on the phone with that same president, not asking him how to work together to help New Yorkers, or not telling him that he would refuse to back down to protect those New Yorkers, but instead asking him how to win this race. That's something I can do myself. I don't need the president's assistance for. And what I'd tell the president is if he ever wants to come for New Yorkers in the way that he has been, he's going to have to get through me as the next mayor of this city.
All right, Mr. Cuomo, we'll give you a little extra time, but I'd like you to answer this question as well, what your first conversation with the president would be like.
Okay. First, I never had a conversation with the president that the assemblyman was talking about. But he has a distant relationship with the truth. I would say to the president in the first conversation, look, we have had many, many battles. We fought together every day during COVID. And the battles were bloody. And I'd like to avoid them. If you come after New York, you know what I'm going to do. You know it's going to be ugly. And my chances are almost 50-50, even though you're the president. I'd like to work with you. I think we can do good things together. But number one, I will fight you every step of the way if you try to hurt New York.
Unless he weaponizes the justice system to go after the attorney general of this state, in which case you'll issue a statement that doesn't even name the president. And no matter what you think about Donald Trump, you know that not even being able to name him is an act of cowardice. And that's what we would see from Donald Trump's puppet on the right over here.
I do want to get Ms. Sliwa, but Mr. Cuomo, I'll give you a few seconds to respond to that.
Yeah, I said political weaponization of the justice system is wrong. Both sides do it. It's wrong when Donald Trump does it. It's wrong when they did it to Comey. It's wrong when Comey did it to Hillary. Okay. It was wrong when it happened to Tish James.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. I want to give Mr. Sliwa a chance to answer this. Mr. Sliwa, your first official conversation with the president, what would you say to set the tone?
Well, first of all, there's high levels of testosterone in this room. I've had a love-hate relationship with Donald Trump that goes back over 30 years. But I know one thing. We have Andrew Cuomo. We have Zoran Mamdani. They want to take on Donald Trump. Look, you can be tough, but you can't be tough if it's going to cost people desperately needed federal funds. Zoran Mamdani, the president, has already said he's going to take $7 billion out of the budget right from the start if you're elected mayor. People are going to suffer in this city, people who need those federal funds. What I would do is sit and negotiate. I would say, look, Mr. President, we need that Gateway Tunnel. It moves millions of people from Washington, D.C. to Boston. But take away the Q train project. We don't need those 3 stations going from 96th Street to 125th. It's not a necessity. Sit with the president and whoever he delegates and try to negotiate. But if you try to get tough with Trump, the only people who are going to suffer from that are the people of New York City.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa, thank you. Brief response, Mr. Mamdani.
Mr. Trump is already suspending infrastructure grants to this city, and he's doing it in a blatant act of political retribution. And what it requires is leadership that will stand up to him. And I disagree with Mr. Sliwa. We do need to extend the 2nd Avenue subway to 125th Street. It was a promise made to Harlemites decades ago. Okay. It's time to actually fulfill it.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Okay, quick question for each of you. Mr. Cuomo, you've been asked this before.
He mentioned my name. Don't I get a chance to respond?
Well, we got a lot of ground to cover, Mr. Sliwa.
All right, could I
When was
respond?
the last time you spoke with President Trump, Mr. Cuomo? You've been asked this before, and the last time you said you couldn't remember.
I believe it was during his assassination attempt.
So last year in 2024. Mr. Sliwa, when was the last time you spoke with President Trump?
Oh, many years ago, we were receiving awards. I was praising him for saving the annual Veterans Day parade. Those were the conversations that I had with him. Can I please respond? I was asked about the Q train.
Okay, real quick.
Mr. Mamdani?
I am the mayor of mass transit. We do not need a Q train. I'm in the subways every day. We have more than a capable system of transporting people.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
The infrastructure needs to be fixed in the system that we have.
Mr. Mamdani, have you ever spoken with President Trump?
No.
Okay, there you go. Sally.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, a follow-up to that. President Trump has spoken positively about you and your candidacy, even as his Justice Department, as we've noted, is reportedly investigating you for allegations you lied to Congress over your COVID record. Given that dynamic, how would you be able to stand up to this White House? How are you not compromised? And just take into account that New Yorkers are troubled by what they view as a compromised relationship the current outgoing mayor has with the president.
Yeah. First, you're wrong when you say there's any investigation of me. That's not true.
Do you have evidence there is no investigation?
I've heard absolutely nothing. Congress did a press release. They said they sent a letter to the Department of Justice, which they do routinely to generate press, and that's what that is. I fought Donald Trump. He investigated me repeatedly with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice Inspector General said that it was actually politically motivated. That does not back me up. When I'm fighting for New York, I am not going to stop. And I'll tell you something else. If the Assemblyman is elected mayor, Donald Trump will take over New York City, and it will be Mayor Trump who runs New York City.
We have to move on. Just very quick follow-up, yes or no. You're saying unequivocally the Justice Department is not investigating you, correct?
I've heard absolutely nothing.
They could be, and you might not have heard it. But OK, we'll move on. David?
OK. Thank you, Sally.
That is virtually impossible, by the way.
Okay.
But Mr. Cuomo, you did put out an ad the day after the news first broke in the New York Times that you were under investigation, calling it a political investigation, saying they were coming after you as they had to, after other Democratic politicians. You haven't denied this previously.
That the Republican Congress was. Yes, I believe they play politics with the justice system. Okay. I believe the Republican Congress does it. I believe Donald Trump does it. I believe the Democrats do it. And that's why I think people are sick and tired of the justice system and the politics.
If you think that there's no difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, then that's the candidate for you. If you think it's time to have a Democratic Party that actually stands up to Donald Trump and his billionaire-backed assault on working people.
Well, first
thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
You're not a Democrat,
candidates,
right? You're not a Democrat. You're a Democratic socialist.
We have
you didn't vote for Kamala Harris, right?
We have other ground to cover. We have other ground to cover.
That's an incendiary charge. I want to be very.
You may have a chance to address it, but we do.
I'll be very quick.
We have a lot of issues to get to with New Yorkers, Mr. Mamdani.
I'll be very quick.
You didn't say leave it blank in the Kamala
I'll be very
campaign?
quick. I said leave it blank in the presidential primary because primaries are a place to air dissent. And like many Americans, I was horrified by the Israeli genocide of Palestinians. And if you want to look for me on the ballot, you'll find me as the Democrat.
Mr. Mamdani, thank you. We have to move on. This week, the world is reacting to President Trump's Israel-Hamas peace deal and the release of the hostages. And many are cautiously optimistic about a lasting peace. Of course, the mayor has no direct role in foreign affairs, and we certainly have a lot of questions for you about city matters. But this war has been a major topic in the campaign. And there are criticisms about your positions in the past and how you envision leading on these issues as mayor. So we have questions for all of you, but first for Mr. Mamdani, because of something you said that's been generating headlines in the news today as we come into the debate. Yesterday on Fox News, you were asked if Hamas should lay down its weapons, key to the peace plan and ceasefire. And some say they found your answer confusing. You said, quote, I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety, and the fact that anything has to abide by international law. And that applies to Hamas, and that applies to the Israeli military. So for the voters tuning in tonight, Mr. Mamdani, what do you believe about Hamas and how lasting peace will be achieved? We know it's a complicated matter, but we'd like you to keep your answer to a minute if you could.
Of course, I believe that they should lay down their arms. I'm proud to be one of the first elected officials in the state who called for a ceasefire. And calling for a ceasefire means ceasing fire. That means all parties have to cease fire and put down their weapons. And the reason that we call for that is not only for the end of the genocide, but also an unimpeded access of humanitarian aid. I, like many New Yorkers, am hopeful that this ceasefire will hold. I'm hopeful that it is durable. I'm hopeful that it is just. And for it to be just, we also have to ensure that it addresses the conditions that preceded this, conditions like occupation, like the siege, and apartheid. And that is what I'm hopeful for.
Yeah. If I may, that means
Excuse
from
me,
the
excuse
river
me.
to the sea.
I'm being marginalized out of this.
I'm sorry. When he
It's
goes,
a debate of three. Excuse me, Andrew. It's
Well,
a
I'm
debate of
just-
three. Do we acknowledge that? Three people?
Mr. Sliwa, go ahead, and we'll give you a second. Go ahead, Mr. Sliwa.
The President of the United States should have been applauded by you, Zoran Mandami, and you, Andrew Cuomo, on the day that he brought together that international coalition that met in Egypt, that came from the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. I certainly applauded him for bringing peace to Gaza and trying to end the hostilities in the war between the Israelis and Hamas, so there can be peace between the Israelis and peace between the Palestinians. But you seem, Zoran, to be incapable of praising our president. And Andrew, you were incapable of praising our president.
Gentlemen, we have other,
give credit where credit is due. He's brought peace to Gaza.
Yeah, gentlemen, we want to hear everything you have to say. We have other questions on this matter. Mr. Cuomo, please, brief response, because we do have other questions on this issue that you may be able to address. Go ahead.
I did applaud President Trump and his administration. I think it was a great accomplishment. I hope the peace holds. The Assemblyman will not denounce Hamas. The Assemblyman will not denounce Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. The Assemblyman just said in his response, well, it depends on occupation. That is code, meaning that Israel does not have a right to exist as a Jewish state, which he has never acknowledged. That is from the river to the sea. That's why he won't denounce globalize the Intifada, which means kill all Jews.
Let's give Mr. Mamdani a chance to respond to that.
I want to be very clear. The occupation is a reference to international law and the violation of it, which Mr. Cuomo has no regard for since he signed up to be Benjamin Netanyahu's legal defense team during the course of this genocide. And I find the comments that Hassan made on 9/11 to be objectionable and reprehensible. And I also think that part of the reason why Democrats are in the situation that we are in, of being a permanent minority in this country, is we are looking only to speak to journalists and streamers and Americans with whom we agree of every single thing that they say. We need to take the case to every person, and I'm happy to do that, which is why I was on Fox News yesterday talking about how I wish it was more like NASCAR so we could see all the billionaires who are sponsoring you right on your suit jacket.
Melissa has another
We're going to turn it to Sally, actually.
Yeah, actually, this kind of flows, and then we'll go back to Melissa. Mr. Mamdani, you told NBC's Meet the Press that you don't believe it's the role of the mayor to police speech. Your words about this war have comforted many New Yorkers, but they've troubled others, and I want to ask about some of this. There is your recent refusal, as we just discussed, to condemn the slogan, globalize the Intifada, which many view as a call to arms. In 2017, you rapped lyrics praising the Holy Land Five. These are men who were convicted of supporting terrorism. How would you assure New Yorkers, especially Jewish residents who might be concerned about this, that you would be a mayor for all? You have 1 minute to answer this.
Thank you for this opportunity. When I am speaking about the responsibility of leading this city, I mean leading not just those who voted for me, leading not just those who vote, but leading every single person who calls this city home. And that includes Jewish New Yorkers. And I have been so thankful for the opportunity I've had to sit with so many Jewish New Yorkers over the course of the primary and through the general. And it's in those conversations that I learned that this phrase evokes many painful memories. Memories of bus attacks in Haifa, of restaurant attacks in Jerusalem. And I heard from a rabbi about their roommate who was killed on one of those buses. And in hearing that and the distance between that impact and the rationale that some use of saying it, of speaking about the Israeli occupation of Palestinian land, is why I said that I would discourage this language that I do not use. And what I'm looking to do as the first Muslim mayor of this city is to ensure that we bring every New Yorker together. Jewish New Yorkers, Muslim New Yorkers, every single person that calls this city home, that they understand they won't just be protected, but they will belong.
Mr. Sliwa, we will get to you first. I'm going to ask a question of Mr. Cuomo. While you are a strong supporter of Israel, you have also been slow to develop a relationship with the city's Muslim community. You have called Mr. Mamdani a terrorist sympathizer. How do you assure those New Yorkers, especially Muslims and Arabic New Yorkers, that you will be a mayor for all? You'll have 1 minute.
Yeah, well, first, I think the Assemblyman created the perception himself. Why wouldn't he condemn Hamas? Why wouldn't he condemn Hassan Piker? Why did it take us here tonight for the first time for him to say it? He still won't denounce globalize the intifada, which means kill all Jews. Just say, I denounce it. He won't do it. That's the issue.
Mr.
And his divisiveness
Cuomo, can you address the question
is
that we're putting to
chronic.
you? I think you've made the point, but can you please answer about your own relationship with the Muslim community? You did not visit mosques for many years. More recently, you have been.
Yeah, I don't think in any way the Assemblyman is representative of the Muslim community, which is a vital community in New York City, and I am very fond of, and I've been working with. I think he's playing his own politics. Many of his positions don't even follow the Muslim faith, so I see them as two totally separate things.
Mr. Mamdani, you want to respond?
You know, it took Andrew Cuomo being beaten by a Muslim candidate in the Democratic primary for him to set foot in a mosque. He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality, and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
Yeah, except that is totally false. I've worked with the Muslim community for many years.
Name a single mosque you went to when you were the governor. Can you name a single mosque you went to in 10 years?
Before you were ever here. They were
before I was here.
Before you were even in state government. I worked with the Muslim community. Yeah. Imams presided over State of the States. We worked in religious working groups, tolerance groups, anti-Semitic groups, etc.
All right, gentlemen. Mr. Sliwa, Rosarita has a specific question for you, but I'll give you a second here just to weigh in.
This is what disturbs me about you. You will be celebrating your birthday this weekend. In 1991, I was in the streets of Crown Heights with the Guardian Angels for 30 days and 30 nights when the first Democratic Socialist mayor of New York City, that's right, David Dinkins, was a proud member of the Democratic Socialists of America, abandoned the Jews for 3 days. They were left to their own means. And we protected them for 30 days and 30 nights. Then your favorite mayor, Bill de Blasio, in 2019, abandoned the Jews again when they were being attacked in Williamsburg, in Borough Park, and Crown Heights. And I had to bring the Guardian Angels in for 30 days, 30 nights. Jews don't trust that you are going to be there for them when they are victims of anti-Semitic attacks.
Okay. Brief response, Mr. Mamdani. We have a specific question for you from Rosarita, but Mr. Mamdani, please.
I agree, by the way.
One of the most meaningful experiences I've had over the course of this campaign has been the conversations I've had with Jewish New Yorkers. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me about the door that they've had to lock that they had kept open for 40 years. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me on the M57 about an apartment the speech therapist was trying to sell when a realtor told her, put the Jewish books off the table. Jewish New Yorkers who've told me about their fear in living in this city. And I will be a mayor who finally addresses that, not through the theatrics of the politics on this stage, but through action. I'll do that by ensuring that we have police officers outside of synagogues on the high holy days.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get to, and we do have a specific question for Mr. Sliwa. Rosarita.
Thank you, David. Mr. Sliwa, you've called for tougher policing of pro-Palestinian protests, and you've suggested that Mr. Mamdani uses languages that is anti-Semitic. How do you assure New Yorkers that you'll be the mayor for all?
Well, I've been there for all people at all times for 46 years as leader of the Guardian Angels here and around the world. Whether it is a religious violation of people's rights to worship as they choose in a mosque, in a church, in a synagogue, or a shul, whether it's because of racial identity. Remember, in the summer of 2020, Asians were under constant attack because of the lockdown and pandemic. I don't remember Governor Cuomo coming to their aid. You were the governor then. I was out there going into all the neighborhoods, Flushing, Bayside. We were in down in Bensonhurst. We were in Chinatown itself, where Asians were being attacked indiscriminately because they were thought to be carrying COVID. We protected them then. Governor, you were not there for them. De Blasio was not there for them. We understand hate. And in order to counteract hate,
You have to get the community involved along with the police to protect people when they're under siege. Jews are under attack now more than ever before.
Mr.
And I don't believe either of you have the capabilities of protecting them with increased anti-Semitism.
That is pure fiction. I passed the no hate in our state, the strongest hate crime law in the United States of America. We tolerate no hatred, no discrimination. We are from every place on this globe, and
Unless
we are
it's
proud
you
of
that's
it.
perpetrating
and, excuse me, and we're tolerant and we accept. If you notice, the assemblyman still won't say he believes that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. He is a divisive personality all across the board. NYPD are racist. Barack Obama is evil, liar, and he gave the finger to the Christopher Columbus statue.
By the way, Cuomo, your laws with no cash bail turn the haters right back in the street to violate and attack again and again and again.
Thank you.
You're the reason for that. No cash bail.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you. Go ahead.
There have been a number of absolutely unfounded lies that have been said by Andrew Cuomo. I would just like a moment to address them directly. I've said time and again that I recognize Israel's right to exist. I've said that I will not recognize any state. I said that I will not.
As a Jewish state.
If I would be allowed to finish, that I would not recognize any state's right to exist with a system of hierarchy on the basis of race or religion. I have made that very clear. And part of that is because I'm an American who believes in the importance of equal rights being enshrined in every single country, whether we're speaking about Israel or whether we're speaking about Saudi Arabia. You can stand here and you can lie all you want, but New Yorkers know.
You answered the question.
We
don't support Israel.
want to address some issues here.
All right, and we have another polarizing issue that we would love to discuss with you candidates. And let's talk about the National Guard here in the city of New York. Now, let's go back to Mr. President Donald Trump. One threat hanging over the city is the deployment of the National Guard troops, like he has done, as you all know, in other cities. The NYPD commissioner has rejected the idea as unnecessary, but the president ordered troops to hit the streets of New York. Now, how would you respond? Mr. Sliwa, you have a minute.
There's no need for the National Guard in New York. Kathy Hochul, the governor, when we had a crime crisis in the subways that I'm well familiar with, being down there all the time, unlike my two adversaries, she sent 750 National Guardsmen down into the subways in 2024. Remember the horrible case of Debrina Kawan. Does anybody even say her name anymore? That woman who was set on fire by that migrant. As a result of that, the worst crime I've ever seen committed in the subway system, the governor did the right thing. She sent an additional 250 National Guardsmen, giving us a total of 1,000 National Guardsmen in the subway system, while our mayor, Eric Adams, was telling us it was all a perception. So Governor Hochul has responded. I would tell the President of the United States, since I'm familiar with cities all across America having guardian angels there, if you were going to send the National Guard, you don't need to send them to New York City. There are other cities that could desperately use their help in dealing with their crime crisis.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa. Mr. Mamdani, how would you respond?
You know, I agree with Police Commissioner Tisch in that we do not need the National Guard here in New York City. We do not need them for the purpose of safety, because if it was safety that President Trump was so concerned about, he would send them to the 8 out of 10 states that have the highest levels of crime in this country, but he won't, because they're all run by Republicans. What New Yorkers need is a mayor who can stand up to Donald Trump and actually deliver on that safety. When Donald Trump sent ICE agents on people in Los Angeles, Andrew Cuomo said that New Yorkers need not overreact. That is the furthest answer that New Yorkers are looking for. They are looking for someone who will lead, someone who will say that they will have their back, someone who will actually fight for the people of this city. And that's who I am, because I'm not funded by the same donors that gave us Donald Trump's second term, which isn't something that Andrew Cuomo can say.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Yeah, first, the answer in the subways is not more National Guard. I put the National Guard in the subways also. It's more NYPD is the answer. But the National Guard is not, he's not sending in the National Guard to do any real function. It's control, it's power. He's trying to say these Democrats don't know how to run these cities, and it's a political gesture by sending in the National Guard. He has said if the assemblyman is elected, he will take over New York. Forget the National Guard.
But this is
he
not
has
the
said, I'm
question.
going
The
to take
question
the
is,
funds.
if they order the troops to come here, what would you do?
Well, I went through this with him. He sent the National Guard to 20 cities when I was governor. You know what city he didn't send them to? New York. Why? Because I said to him, don't you dare we don't need it, and he backed down, and he will again.
So that proves a good relationship
Wait a
with the
second.
president.
The president is going to back down to you, Andrew Cuomo. I know you think you're the toughest guy alive, but let me tell you something. You lost your own primary, right? You were rejected by your Democrats.
Why
and
didn't
you have
you
a
send the
difficult
National Guard?
understanding that what the term
All
no
right,
is.
all right.
You're
Thank
not going to stand up to Donald Trump.
I agree with Curtis.
You're not going to stand up to Donald Trump. Okay. And he can't stand up to Donald Trump, who knocked him right on his tuchus.
You negotiate with him. You don't fight with him because only the people of New York City will lose.
We do have stand up to negotiate.
We have a follow-up.
I'd like to see a show of hands. Are there any circumstances where any of you would allow the NYPD to cooperate with the National Guard if Trump sent them to New York? Show of hands. Yes? No takers. Okay. Moving on. If history is a guide, National Guard troops in the city could trigger protests. And we have questions for each of you about how you would handle that. So, Mr. Sliwa, you have been arrested for protesting migrant housing and for trying to serve Mayor Bill de Blasio with court papers. How would your NYPD handle protests? And would you continue participating in protests as mayor? You have 1 minute.
Well, I have been arrested oftentimes in civil disobedience. That is a great American right. But demonstrations have a time and a place. And it used to be before Bill de Blasio, I know he was your favorite mayor, Zohran Mamdani, that you'd have to get a permit. There's a time period you were in a structured area. You get a sound permit. It could be turned around in a day. If there was going to be civil disobedience, you discussed it with the police department. And obviously, you had an opportunity of expressing your anger or your outrage at whatever it was that motivated you to sit down in the street, to block traffic or block an egress. Now we have rampaging groups that go running through the streets, that enter all kinds of facilities and violate other people's rights. And there's no one who's willing to stop it. When I'm the mayor, there are rules and regulations. Everybody has the right to demonstrate, but you can't violate other people's rights, or you yourself must be arrested. And I would remove the face coverings. Remove those face coverings. Why are you afraid of identifying who you are as a demonstrator, unless maybe you're an agent provocateur who's been sent in here to cause chaos?
Thank you. Rosarina?
The next question goes to you, Mr. Mamdani. You were arrested for blocking traffic in a pro-Palestinian protest, and you participated in a sit-in at Grand Central. Protesters offered block streets, bridges, and hubs like Grand Central. How much of that would you allow as mayor? And what's your line in having the NYPD arrest protesters? You have a minute.
Protest is a part of what makes this city's history what it is. It is a part of the First Amendment. We deserve to have a mayor who stands up for that First Amendment, especially as we have a president that's looking to shred it at each and every opportunity. And we will continue to have protests in this city, as we should, no matter who is the mayor. And the line will be on the question of breaking the law. What we have today, however, is an attempt to intimidate so many who are looking to use that freedom of expression to share their opinions about the city and the world around them. And to be frank with you, what New Yorkers are looking for is someone who can show leadership in City Hall. Because when they don't see that leadership, that's when so many take to the streets. And if you had a leader like Andrew Cuomo, who was telling people not to overreact when they see ICE agents abducting girls as young as 6 years old to deport them, many New Yorkers will take to the streets. We deserve to have a leader who will actually be following through on the values of the city. That's the leader that I'll be.
Mr. Mamdani, just a quick follow-up. If you're elected, would you still participate in protests?
No, if I'm elected, I'll be the mayor, and I'll be leading the city from City Hall.
But no participation in protests, right?
The important thing is to lead from City Hall. That's what I'll be doing.
Okay.
Yeah. If I may respond, because I believe my name was invoked.
A very brief response, and then I have a question for you.
I dealt with ICE. I stood up with ICE. I had a war with ICE
You
here
stood
in
up
New
with
York
ICE.
when I was governor. And I stood them down, and they moved out. What the assemblyman is saying is, he doesn't believe in law and order. He believes in defunding the police, disarming the police, disbanding the police. That's who he is. Abolish jails.
Sorry,
I have a question for you.
Sally,
Okay, 15 seconds
very
rebuttal,
quickly.
Mr. Mamdani, and then we do just 15 seconds because we have a question for Mr. Cuomo.
Mr. Cuomo lies again and again and again. I am not running to defund the police. I am running to actually work with the police to deliver public safety. Andrew Cuomo says that he has stood up to ICE. He has not said a word about the abductions that are happening right now.
He's referring to a previous comment you made, and we will get back back to this. But Mr. Cuomo, a question for you.
It's a comment he made. Is the operative
I said
language.
that. Yes,
Yeah,
I
know.
understand. I said that. As governor, you put the National Guard on standby during the George Floyd protests. You didn't deploy them. As mayor, talk about how you would balance the right to protest with maintaining order in the streets.
The right to
You have 1
protest.
minute.
The right to protest is a sacred right. There is no doubt about that. But the law is the law also. And you have New Yorkers now who are afraid in this city. They're afraid of Donald Trump coming. They're afraid of that anarchy. And they're afraid of the anarchy in this city itself. We have to provide public safety that makes New Yorkers feel safe. Demonstration is one thing. Violating the law is something else. Blocking public transit is something else. Stopping students from going to class is something else. Harassment, intimidation, that's a hate crime. That's illegal. Enforce the law. Respect the police. They're not racists, as the assemblyman calls them. They're not a threat to public safety, as he says. They're not anti-queer. They are here to protect New Yorkers, work with them, fortify them.
You know, that's ironic that you say that now,
I'm sorry,
Andrew
Mr.
Cuomo, because when you were governor for 8 years, your parole board released 43 cop killers back into the street. Your father, when he was governor, released none. I knew Mario Cuomo. You know Mario Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo. You released cop killers. Don't say you're pro-police.
Do you want to respond briefly to the comments that Mr. Cuomo raised about things you've said about police? You can do a brief response to that.
I have been clear time and time again that as much as Andrew Cuomo wants to bring up tweets from 2020, which is around the same time that he was sending seniors to their death in nursing homes, I am looking to work with police officers, not to defund the NYPD, looking to ensure that officers can actually do one job when they're signing up to join that department.
But he's
not
okay,
the many jobs we're asking them to do today.
He was specifically
with the mental
referring to
health
comments
crisis.
you made. We will come back to that, but we're out of time.
They are wicked and corrupt
Candidates,
and racist.
we're moving
That's
on.
what
Thank
you said.
you.
Your words. Your words.
We're moving on. Thank you. Despite record low crime numbers, polls show that crime remains a top concern for New York City voters. The three of you have very different approaches to crime fighting and how to manage the NYPD. We want to get into your plans. So we'll start with this question. It's a two-part question, but it's short. How will you make the city safer? And how will you change the NYPD? You'll have 1 minute. We begin with Mr. Cuomo.
I would add 5,000. Well, let's take a step back. Remember what happened. The far left, the socialists said defund the police, defund the police. They took $1 billion out of the police. The NYPD is now down at one of the lowest levels in modern political history. I would add 5,000 police, put 1,500 in the subways, raise the starting salary because you can't hire them. You can't even fill a class right now. And you have to add additional police officers because the attrition rate is so high. Part of that is going to be saying to the NYPD, I respect you. I don't think you're wicked, as the assemblyman said. I don't think you're corrupt. I don't think you're racists. I value you. I will have your back. I'll be a mayor to work with you. That's how you're going to get the police to apply for the jobs. And then we have to work on the relationship between the community and the police. The police can't police the community. They have to police with the community.
You're up next, Mr. Sliwa.
This is amazing. I'm standing here with my two adversaries, both of whom have threatened to defund the police. You, Andrew Cuomo, during the summer of 2020, you said, if you don't reform police departments, I'm going to defund you. And you certainly said that, Zoran Mandami. We need 7,000 police. We only have 32,500. The problem in recruiting police, which neither of you are addressing, is that their insurance was stripped from them. The state, you did nothing when you were governor, and here in the city, 2021, the city council and Eric Adams did nothing. They don't have qualified immunity, which you've benefited from, Andrew Cuomo, with the 13 lawsuits filed against you for sexual harassment. Tom DiNapoli says we're paying out $60 million. Why? Because you had your qualified immunity as governor, and yet people have stood by
Quick
as
response,
police
Mr.
have
Cuomo.
lost their insurance that all civil servants have. That's why you can't get recruits in, because they're not insured. I will return their qualified
Mr.
immunity
Cuomo, quick
because they
response,
need to be
please.
protected like other
Yeah.
civil servants.
That is not New York State. It's New York City on the qualified insurance, on qualified immunity. It's not insurance at all.
You are entitled to
It's
free
qual-
legal
it's-
counsel, which is what he's referring to.
Yes.
You have spent.
Yes, but it's
some-
New York City that has revoked qualified immunity. It's not insurance. It's qualified immunity. It has nothing to do with insurance.
Well, that protected you in all these lawsuits.
And yes, the lawsuits, because there was a report filed. I said it was political. It turned out to be political, and that's why
all
you had
13
legal
women
fees.
were lying? Come on, Andrew. All 13 women were lying.
After 5 years.
A state trooper, too?
Yeah, after 5 years, 5 DAs, 5 years of
I'm going to
litigation,
move on
I
to
was
Mr.
dropped from the
Mamdani.
case.
Mr. Mamdani, how will
Breathe
you
once
make?
in a while.
Okay, Mr. Mamdani, how will you make the city safer, and how will you change the NYPD?
Thank you. This is the concern for so many New Yorkers, and I'm proud to have a comprehensive plan to bring new ideas to this city. If you want more of the same, vote for Andrew Cuomo. If you want an actual approach to lower crime, look at our Department of Community Safety. That is something that has been hailed by experts as addressing so many of the pieces of why New Yorkers are not feeling safe today. We will ensure that no longer are police officers asked to do the job of both policing and responding to the mental health crisis. We will have dedicated teams of mental health outreach workers in the top 100 subway stations with the highest levels of the mental health crisis and homelessness. We will ensure that cops can finally go back to the response times they used to have in 2020, closer to 11 minutes, as opposed to the closer to 16 minutes today, because they won't be asked to respond to the 200,000 mental health calls that are coming in through 911 every year. This is evidence-based. It's been successful elsewhere in the country. It's time we deliver it right here in New York City. It's time for a
Thank you,
change.
Mr. Mamdani.
Zora Mamdani, we already had it. It was called the Homeless Outreach
I'm
Unit
sorry, this
of
is not
cops
free
and
for all.
mental
We have
health
another
care
question for
officials.
Mr.
And Bill
Mamdani.
de
I'm just gonna keep
Blasio
talking.
funded them by
Mr.
taking
Sliwa.
$1 billion
Thank you,
out
Mr.
of the
Sliwa.
budget.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mamdani, we're going to talk about disciplining police officers. The civilian watchdog that investigates police misconduct regularly recommends discipline for cops accused of wrongdoing, but the police commissioner often overrides them. You want to change that policy so that the board has final say. Please explain to viewers in 30 seconds why you believe the police commissioner should no longer have that final say.
What I've said is that I think it's time to remove much of the politics out of the question of accountability. We have the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which, as you said, studies, assesses, and investigates into complaints of abuse and the violation of the law. And oftentimes, those recommendations are then subject to political pressures and not followed through on. I think New Yorkers deserve a system where they know it won't then be assessed once again, that there's actually more to the recommendation in the investigation that's being done by the CCRB.
Okay, we're wrapping up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Cuomo, do you believe changes are needed for how officers are disciplined? And are there any powers that you would give up as mayor? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would not remove the police commissioner from the CCRB. I'd leave it with the police commissioner. I think Commissioner Tisch is doing a very good job. I would trust her. The difference between me and the assemblyman is he doesn't like the police. That's why he won't hire more police when everyone else says we need more police. He wants to use social workers on domestic violence calls, which are very dangerous. And he's told you what he thinks. He thinks the police are racist, wicked, corrupt, and a threat to public safety.
Thank you.
Those are his words.
Very quick.
Mr. Mamdani.
Mr. Mamdani, very quick.
Look, Andrew Cuomo is a politician of the past, and all he can speak about are the tweets of the past in 2020. Those are tweets which I have apologized for to New Yorkers and police officers directly, and they are not what I am actually running on.
No,
but you're
you haven't.
incapable
But
of
quickly,
actually
Mr.
speaking about the platform that we have
Mr.
here,
Mamdani,
which is
can
one
we
that will
just-
keep New Yorkers safe.
Can we just quickly ask you, because I think what some people feel they haven't heard from you, we hear you saying that you don't believe that anymore and you've apologized. People have not heard you sort of describe the evolution of your thought, how you got from there to here.
You know, growing up in this city, I would think often about safety and justice and the ways in which that relationship has been irrevocably harmed. When I learned about the exonerated five, when I learned about Sean Bell, when I learned about Eric Garner, when I learned about Michael Brown. And then in 2020, when I wrote these tweets, learning about the death of George Floyd. And that was a moment where it felt as if the distance between these two ideals had never been further. And in becoming an assembly member and serving and representing more than 100,000 people in Queens, learning that to deliver justice means to also deliver safety. And that means leading a city where you recognize the bravery of the men and women who joined the NYPD and put their lives on the line. Yeah. It means representing the Muslims who were illegally surveilled in my district and the black and brown New Yorkers who've been victims of police brutality.
So Mr. Sliwa, you've been out there, you've been on the trains, and I would like to know if you believe changes are needed of how officers are disciplined.
Let me just suggest, Zoran, what you've suggested.
Zoran Curtis.
Zoran.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Let me just suggest what you have proposed with this new police outreach unit will endanger women and children in domestic violence situations. I know I've been involved in so many of them with the Guardian Angels. They will be killed. They will be maimed. Number two, in dealing with emotionally disturbed persons that I have dealt with for all my years as the Guardian Angels, you need trained professional police officers. Yes, you can have mental health workers with them.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
But that has been suggested. It was done before by the homeless outreach unit. And the guy you thought was the best mayor, Bill de Blasio, disbanded
Mr. Sliwa, thank you. Brief response?
To be very clear, the Department of Community Safety is not about responding to calls of domestic violence. We are speaking about mental health crisis and the homelessness crisis. These are the focuses of the work that they will do.
All right. We have other questions for that a little later in the debate, but we want to just change the pace a little bit, candidates, switching gears to the high cost of living in New York City. To kick us off, we have a few quick pocketbook questions that New Yorkers wrestle with daily. So we want to know how much you spend a week on groceries. We'll begin with you, Mr. Cuomo.
Depends how many times my daughters come over, but probably about $150.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa?
Oh, I'd say about $175 with a gallon of milk, now $5 and always rising up. Loaf of bread, simple loaf of bread that used to be 99 cents. It's like $3 now.
Thank you,
the price is too
Mr. Sliwa,
it's
thank
too
you.
costly.
It's a brief answer. Thank you. Mr. Mamdani.
Yeah, I actually agree with Curtis on that. It is too costly. Now that eggs are down to less than $4, though, my average spend every week is about $125, $150.
All right. Do you carry credit card debt or do you pay it off every month? Mr. Mamdani?
I pay it off every month.
Mr. Cuomo?
Paid off.
Mr. Sliwa?
I don't have a credit card. I have a debit card.
And for the record, what is your monthly rent or mortgage, Mr. Sliwa?
About $3,900. It's not subsidized there. So
Mr. Mamdani, what is your monthly rent or mortgage?
$2,300.
Mr. Cuomo?
He has a rent-stabilized apartment that a poor person is supposed to have. Mine is about $7,800.
We are actually getting to
that. We're gonna cover that subject. Sally?
Thank you. We're going to talk a little bit more about the runaway rent in this city. Mr. Mamdani, you're pledging to freeze rent for nearly 1 million rent-stabilized apartments. That really affects less than half of all rentals in the city. What is your plan for those who aren't in stabilized apartments but are struggling to pay the rent? What are you going to do for them?
Well, I'm proud to say that yes, will freeze the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants, and I will also build 200,000 truly affordable homes across the 5 boroughs over the next 10 years to ensure that tenants, whether rent-stabilized or market rate, can actually have more housing such that they are not being priced out of this city. And finally, I'm also going to make it easier for the private sector to build housing in this city, because what we see today is that it's not labor, it's not materials, it's the weight that is often costing so much to actually build the housing we need in this city.
Thank you. And a follow-up for you, Mr. Mamdani. The cost of maintaining a building change year to year for landlords. The Rent Guidelines Board is legally required to consider those costs when deciding whether to freeze rents. So how can you promise a rent freeze today before ever seeing that data next year?
You know, we've seen the data time and again. It's
next year's data.
It's been data that's been overruled by mayors again and again. The last Rent Guidelines Board study showed that profits were up 12% for landlords of those units. And what did they do? They raised the rent, adding to more than 12% under Eric Adams' administration. What I am speaking about is actually reflecting the needs of these New Yorkers and the state of the market today. These are New Yorkers who have a median household income of $60,000. We do not need to be pushing them further out of the city. We need to keep them in their homes.
Aren't you saying in that answer that you are going to prejudge? You will not have seen the data for next year, and you're making a determination based on data you haven't seen?
I've seen the data year after year of the fact that salaries are stagnating, costs are up, New Yorkers can't actually afford their apartments. And I will also take action to actually ensure that the landlords of those buildings
we're
can better
at
handle
time.
their costs by taking on their insurance, their property taxes, and their water bills.
And you haven't seen next year's data
Mr.
yet, but
Cuomo,
we're going to go
I
to
do have a
Melissa.
question for you on this subject. You have proposed something that you're calling Zoran's Law. You think that Mr. Mamdani earns too much to live in his rent-stabilized apartment, though I should note that there are no income tests for rent-stabilized apartments. But critics say your plan would force people to pay too much of their income towards the rent. So if you think Mr. Mamdani is gaming the system, what about the other New Yorkers, thousands of them just like him, who earn similar salaries, who are living in similar apartments?
Okay, just to follow up on what Sally was saying, because she's right. This is not a new plan that the Assemblyman is talking about. It's Bill de Blasio's plan. It was called Freeze the Rent. Bill de Blasio says the mayor can't say legally he's going to freeze the rent. There's a rent guidelines board. There are certain considerations that have to be looked at. You're right, Sally. You can't say today what it's going to be in 4 years. Also, freeze the rent only postpones the rent, because then you have to have an increase to cover the costs. Otherwise, the building is going to go bankrupt. And it does nothing for the majority of renters who aren't in these rent-stabilized units. There's nothing for NYCHA. There's nothing for homeowners. There's nothing for people in black-brown communities who are getting priced out. I was the HUD secretary. I built affordable housing all across this nation. I built affordable housing in this city when I was in my 20s. I know how to get it done. I will get it done. On the
rent-stabilized
units, what I'm saying is those are the precious units, and we
You're out
should,
of time. I'm sorry,
we should
Mr.
keep
Cuomo.
them for
We
the
didn't get an
most
answer to the
rent
question.
burden.
We have to move on.
But I have a question for you.
No, sorry, he invoked me for much of that question. Just a very brief response
Please,
here.
very brief.
You know, you've heard it from Andrew Cuomo that the number one crisis in this city, the housing crisis, the answer is to evict my wife and I. He thinks you address this crisis by unleashing my landlord's ability to raise my rent. If you think that the problem in this city is that my rent is too low, vote for him. If you know the problem in this city is that your rent is too high, vote for me.
If I understand it correctly,
Sons of
Mr. Cuomo,
millionaires
your
need
program,
subsidized
Zoran's Law,
housing.
would not evict Mr. Mamdani.
It would not evict it.
It would
No,
apply
he
to people applying for apartments.
But the tenant
advocates.
It would evict
All right.
no one.
This
it would
does
be
not
an
affect.
income limitation
We have to move
on
on.
the
I
applicant.
have a question for Mrs.
This is
Sliwa.
like
Rosarina-
a spat in the schoolyard. Let me
No,
suggest.
Mrs.
Can I
Sliwa,
please
Rosarina
ask
has
the
a specific question for you on this.
Yeah, well, I
We
wanted
wanna
to
hear it.
talk about affordability
Well, you can
and
use it.
obviously address
Absolutely.
that
Go
issue.
ahead. Yeah.
So you've proposed, Mr. Sliwa, plans that would made a point of talking about the struggle of renters and property owners. Describe your plan to help renters and landlords.
Well, first off, we have 6,000 available apartments that the mayor controls in NYCHA, and they've been empty for years. That you address, number one. Then we talk about senior citizens who are living here. My whole goal is to improve and not to move. I'm concerned about the seniors, especially those that own homes. If they're 65 and make less than $250,000, no property tax, because the property tax is way too high. We need to cut it in half to keep people who are here. And then in terms of rentals, we have affordable housing that can be built in these huge skyscrapers. You see them all throughout Manhattan and in northern Brooklyn and in Long Island City, which we have 25 Empire State Buildings full of commercial space that will never be occupied for office space. We should be converting them into affordable apartments. They're in dense areas. The infrastructure can support it. I'm the only candidate here who's against the
Mr.
city of
Sliwa,
Yes
thank you.
that would
Mr.
destroy
Sliwa.
residential
I
neighborhoods.
have to interrupt you because we have a programming moment right now. We're about halfway through the mayoral debate. Channel 4 and Telemundo 47 will return to regular programming, but we got a lot to get to, and you can continue watching live on NBC New York, Telemundo 47 streaming and digital platforms, Telexitos, Politico.com, and YouTube. Stay with us. A lot to discuss. Gentlemen, thank you. That was kind of a natural point for us to transition, and we want to talk now about transportation and getting around town. And we have a few quick questions about how you get around town. Show of hands, even though they're in their waning days, who has a Metro card or maybe uses OmniPay?
Uses OmniPay?
Yeah, OmniPay, yeah. MetroCard, I mean, I have one, but, I know I'm hanging on to the last
So
moment.
you're on the subways, Mr. Sliwa. What do you use? I'm just curious. If you don't.
OmniCard. In fact, I got a whole batch.
Okay.
I'm in the subways, I'm in the buses, and I'm in the express buses.
Okay.
The only candidate who rides mass transit every day.
When you need to get somewhere fast and you can't take the train, do you hail a taxi? Do you use rideshare? Mr. Sliwa, what do you do?
I try to avoid yellow cabs. As you know, I was shot in the back of a yellow cab in 1992 by the Gattis and Gambinos. But I find my way around. If I have to, I Uber if I can't get there by mass transit.
What do you do, Mr. Mamdani, if you can't take the train?
I would either take a cab or ride a bike.
Mr. Cuomo?
I would take a cab, Uber.
Okay. All right. Thanks, gentlemen. Sally?
Thank you, David. Let's talk about free buses. Mr. Mamdani, this is a centerpiece of your campaign. Can you explain how you will make buses free? You have 30 seconds to answer.
Absolutely. We will make buses free by replacing the revenue that the MTA currently gets from buses. This is revenue that's around $700 million or so. That's less money than Andrew Cuomo gave to Elon Musk and $959 million in tax credits when he was the governor. And the reason that we will do so is that making buses free doesn't just provide economic relief, but also public safety. Because what we've seen is that it decreases assaults on bus drivers by 38.9%. New Yorkers deserve more than the slowest buses in the country. I know that because I was on the M57 not too long ago, and its average speed is 4.9 miles an hour.
We're at time, though, but the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares, and that's something that we would do in partnership with Albany, and I've put forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%. That would raise $4 billion. The second is to raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, which would raise $5 billion.
We're going to move along, but I just want to point out to viewers that Governor Hochul has opposed raising the income tax. But, Melissa, we'll move on to your question.
Could I address that on the buses? Because half the people don't pay their bus fare to begin with, Zoran. And so it's
Zoran.
It's a complete disaster. If you have free bus fare, and the Citizens Budget Commission said just last year, 2024, $1 billion of fare evasion in all different forms. This MTA system will collapse. There's not enough money out there to make up for fare evasion. Pay your fare. If you don't pay your fare, they have fare programs for the poor and the indigent. But everybody should be forced to pay their fare.
Mr. Cuomo, you had both praise and some criticism for Mr. Mamdani's free bus pilot. So you're sort of in the middle on this issue. What's your plan to make subways and buses more affordable?
I think free buses is a mistake. It costs about $700 million. Just to give you an idea that we only raise about $500 from congestion pricing. It's been done before in other cities. It was a disaster. They stopped. They basically became mobile homeless gathering places. What I say is free buses for working families who can't afford it and free subways for working families. But don't subsidize rich people on a bus. And it's been tried and it's failed.
Mr. Mamdani, can you just respond quickly on the point about the mobile homeless gathering places?
You know, this is something that we heard when we were fighting to make buses free in Albany when we delivered the first fare-free bus lines in New York City history. And what we saw is when we made one bus route free in each borough of New York City, there was no increase in homelessness on those buses. There was no increase in fare evasion in the surrounding area. What there was an increase in ridership of up to 38%.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani.
Candidates, maybe we can dig deeper on this and get a sense of how all of you would pay for your big ideas. Mr. Mamdani, we'll start with you. We've obviously been talking about free buses. You've talked about free childcare, city-run grocery stores. So essentially, you're proposing about $10 billion in new spending. And as you've indicated, you want to pay for it with tax increases. But as Sally pointed out, Governor Hochul said no to raising income tax on millionaires. So tell New Yorkers tonight how you're going to pay for all of this in 1 minute, if you can.
Look, a lot of people have called even my campaign a non-starter when we first began. And now I stand before you proud to be the Democratic nominee who got the most votes in city primary history. And I believe we will see the same thing with our push to ensure that we are taxing the wealthiest and the most profitable corporations the fair amount that they should pay. Now, there are those who will say that because it will be hard, you should give up. We saw what giving up looked like when Andrew Cuomo was the governor. He gave up on fighting for working-class New Yorkers and instead caved in to his billionaire donors. And what did we get? We have the fastest and most frequent helicopter service to the Hamptons, and we have the slowest and more expensive bus service across the 5 boroughs.
But again, Mr. Mamdani, I know Governor Hochul indicated this week there may be some open windows, but more or less income tax on millionaires is off the table, according to the governor.
Look, I've said very clearly, making buses fast and free costs about $700 million a year. Making universal child care a reality costs about $5 or $6 billion a year. If you raise the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey, you'd be raising $5 billion in and of itself.
I have a couple of follow-ups. Mr. Sliwa, you're next, but I have a couple of follow-ups.
I would just add one additional thing. We have also put forward a plan to save money here in New York City with $1 billion in savings through procurement reform, through following the independent budget office's assessment about hiring more fiscal auditors, and in actually collecting the fines and fees from bad landlords across the city.
Just a quick couple of follow-ups. If you could find some of the funding, but not all of it, which of your priorities would come first? What would be the first among equals that you would try to get done?
Well, freezing the rent doesn't require any fiscal infusion, so that will be something we'll be pursuing immediately. And universal childcare, after housing, is the second cost. Childcare is the second cost pushing New Yorkers out of this city. $22,500 a year is the estimate we've seen.
Okay.
That will be a priority for us.
And I just want to know if you could get the money and funding elsewhere, would you drop the call for the tax increase?
Absolutely. The most important thing is funding these agenda items. I think these are the two most important and straightforward, direct ways to do so. But if the money comes from elsewhere, the most important thing is funding.
Melissa has a question for Mr. Sliwa.
Mr. Sliwa, you've been talking about cutting taxes and spending. So what is your plan, and how would you pay for your programs like 7,000 more cops?
Well, Zoran, boy, your fantasies are never going to come about in terms of funding everything you want that's going to be free, free, free. It's a fantasy. Let's deal with the reality. 7,000 cops. You already have a plan in Boston where you pay for taxes in the future. This is a great plan in which universities and others who have bought up properties that are now taken from the real estate market and taken from property tax pay. We could raise $1 billion from Columbia University, NYU, that are in the real estate business, and Madison Square Garden, your friends, Andrew Cuomo, Jimmy Dolan, who pays no property taxes. That's how you raise $1 billion to get 700 police officers trained, vetted, and out into the streets in the 5 boroughs. And then the police will be on the subways, and they will be patrolling the old-fashioned way where they're needed, going up and down the moving subway cars, where people want to see the visual protection, especially women who are being assaulted, perved, and like we saw this morning on 86th Street, a woman with a gun to her head, an armed robbery because we don't have enough cops.
I have a question for you in this topic, and let's talk about history, because as governor, you raised and cut taxes. Now you're proposing some tax relief. What's the price tag for your proposals, and where will you get the money for example, 5,000 new police officers? You have a minute to answer.
I think Sally's question was very well taken. The Assemblyman's whole plan is based on a myth. He's going to raise taxes. Albany's going to raise taxes statewide on corporations, but the money's only going to go to New York City. That could never happen. It's not just that the governor wouldn't support it. It's impossible. He said he's going to raise the taxes the same as New Jersey, corporate tax. No, it would be double the tax. You would see New Yorkers on I-95 fleeing to Florida. We would be alone. So you have to be realistic with revenue. You have a $115 billion budget. You have to go through that city budget and find savings. I started the state, which is double the budget of the city, at a $10 billion deficit. I closed it and added services. And we can do the same with New York City.
Governor, as mayor, you would not increase spending in the New York City budget? Yes or no?
There would be, whatever additional spending would be revenue neutral.
So
it's impossible. You got to cut taxes for people to stay here.
Thank you.
The corporations are not going to stay here. They're being lured south to cities that are more corporate friendly. You got to cut the property tax, income tax for those who are 19 to 28 who have skill levels if they go to school here.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa.
Andrew Cuomo thinks it's all right to spend $60 million to fund his legal defense from accusations of more than a dozen women of sexual harassment. But if I say we should spend the same amount of money on delivering cheaper groceries in this city through a pilot program, that is unfathomable.
Quick, David, I have a right to respond to that.
Yes, quickly.
First, I did not bring those lawsuits. That was brought by the Attorney General, which I said was political.
Well, those
That's what generated
by individual
the legal fees.
women, and some of them have still been making their way through the courts this year and
yes,
now.
and I've been dropped from the cases.
Not all of them.
Yeah, and what the Assemblyman doesn't say is all this money that he wants to pass. The one thing he did do is he voted for a pay raise for himself They're the highest paid
We have to cover
legislators in the United States.
I did ask
And
the
he has
state
the worst
controller's
attendance
office
record.
this week. I did ask the state controller's office this week. The total was above 60 million. But just those sexual harassment cases to defend Governor Cuomo and his staff was about $21
Sorry, it was the
million
sexual harassment and
I just want to
nursing home
clarify
cases.
because you said 60, but
All right.
on those cases it was 21.
Okay. Thank you. We have to talk about quality of life in the city. Let's turn to everyday life in the city and some issues a mayor can directly impact. We start with a couple of questions about 311, the number New Yorkers call or text for non-emergency help. First off, have you ever called 311, and if so, for what? Mr. Mamdani?
I called 311 for issues with my heating in my apartment, and I've spoken to New Yorkers time and time again who are frustrated by the fact that they can track their Uber Eats block by block, but when they call 311 for them to come to their apartment, it's just a question of hoping and praying that they do. There's no actual appointment. That's something that we would change.
All right, Mr. Sliwa, have you ever called 311?
You know, there used to be that song 911 is a joke by Public Enemy. 311 is a joke. You can call it over and over and over again, and you never get a response.
Have you?
The analytics are when the operators talk to you, as I talk to them.
Have you called?
Yes, I've called them many times and gotten no response.
Mr. Cuomo?
Most citizens I talk to on the subways and streets never get good responses from 311.
Short answer. Mr. Cuomo?
I've heard a lot of complaints about 311, so I actually made a call to 311 myself to see if the complaints were bona fide. And I was dropped twice. Then they were going to send someone to find help a homeless woman in distress, and no one showed up.
You're all expressing frustration. Last year, 311 received 38 million contacts from New Yorkers, from calls to the website. Wanted to know if you had a sense across the 5 boroughs what the top 2 categories of complaints were. What do you think they were, Mr. Sliwa?
Potholes, constantly potholes. People's undercarriages ripped out, ball bearings, alignments.
Second one, top 2?
Rats.
Rats, okay.
Oh, the city is flooded with rats.
Mr. Cuomo, what do you think the top 2 complaints were?
Homeless and trash rats.
All right, Mr. Mamdani?
There was housing and noise.
Okay, so the answer is noise and illegal parking. And we're going to stick with quality of life. Rosarina?
That's right, and let's talk about noise candidates because they fall into these 2 categories. First of all is the residential one, that's the neighbors and the loud music. And the second one is the street or sidewalk, everything with the loud construction and workers outside. So, Mr. Cuomo, as mayor, what can you do to help the city that never sleeps get a little bit of rest, Mr. Cuomo?
Yeah, look, I think if the 311 system worked well, if there was actually contact with people, I think New Yorkers would get it. I think New Yorkers would be responsive. I think we have to change the ethos in this city, the ethic in this city. Right now it's toxic, it's divisive, everyone's angry at everyone. I think when we have public safety that's functional again, and New Yorkers are part of that system, I think they would be more cooperative than you think.
Thank you very much.
There's no proposal.
Mr. Sliwa, how would you quiet a little bit the city that never sleeps?
In the outer boroughs, I see problems all the time, quality of life issues. 18-wheel tractor trailers, RVs parked everywhere. Garbage that's not picked up and collected. In the city, we've seen trash cans taken away by the sanitation department, Jessica Tisch, when she was the commissioner. The quality of life has diminished noticeably. So naturally, people are going to revert to 311. But it's important that a mayor be able to provide services to all the people. And they believe if quality of life is diminished, the next stop is sell your house and leave the city. And my goal is to improve and not move.
Mr. Mamdani, your turn.
What we've seen is one of the biggest sources of noise in this city is from congestion. And with the implementation of congestion pricing, we've actually seen noise complaints drop in the congestion zone. And so I would continue to find ways to ensure that we have reduced congestion across the city. And one of the ways is by making the slowest buses in America ones that are fast and free, so that New Yorkers can not only live a life of excellent quality of life, but also be able to get around this city without having to worry if they have $2.90 or soon to be $3 in their pocket, which is already out of reach for 1 in 5 New Yorkers.
We have here the author of congestion pricing, and we have the apprentice of congestion pricing.
We might
I'm
need
the only candidate who's opposed to congestion pricing.
Thank you.
It has led to
We might need to-
storefronts
we might need to
closing
place-
because they don't have enough food.
We need to move on, otherwise we might have to place a call to 311 about candidates going over there a lot of time. Okay, so we're going to move on to
there, don't worry.
We're going to move on to illegal parking plaques in many neighborhoods. Recently, Councilmember Lincoln Ressler released a study that found 450 vehicles parked illegally during the day in downtown Brooklyn, many with fake or government placards. That's just one snapshot of the city, but you hear similar complaints everywhere. So how would you fix this specific situation? You'll have 30 seconds. Mr. Sliwa will begin with you.
Well, obviously, placards have been abused consistently. You have people who've created fake placards. Not only that, you have people with fake license plates, paper plates. This all violations against the Department of Transportation rules and regulations of where you can park a vehicle. There's just no enforcement. And that's because we don't have police. We have these e-bikes going up and down. We have the motorbikes. They're not following rules and regulations. They should be licensed. They should have a way of being identified. This way, enforcement
Sliwa,
can
your
take place
time is
because
up.
people are terrified walking out into the streets.
Mr.
in their neighborhood.
Mamdani, your plan for illegal parking?
We have to showcase that accountability is true, whether for New Yorkers who are just living in this city or those who are working for this city. And the violation of traffic laws are violations no matter who is doing it, and to show that that accountability is something my city government's actually going to pursue.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo.
On the quality of life, you're right, is very, very important. On the placards, I would make it simple. I would recall all the city placards and reissue only those that are bona fide, period, on day one. On the quality of life issues, the worst thing that could happen is if the Assemblyman's proposal for legalizing prostitution went through. That would be terrible for the quality of life. He also doesn't want to enforce misdemeanors.
We're getting to that,
That's
Mr.
assault, larceny, etc. That would
We're
be
going to
terrible.
have time to address that.
I want to be very clear. Not only have I never called for the legalization of prostitution, I'm not calling for that today either. And I also have never said anything about not enforcing misdemeanors. This is just yet another figment of Andrew Cuomo's imagination.
The DSA, which you give your part of your salary to, that's their position: abolish jails, no new carceral facilities, don't enforce misdemeanors. And you're on the bill in Albany as a sponsor to decriminalize prostitution.
The difference between of which there are many, is that there is no one that is actually telling me what to do other than the 8.5 million people who call this city home. If you want my policies, you'll find them on my website.
Who told you to legalize prostitution?
We
actually have a question.
Andrew, you can't escape this. You signed the law doing away with loitering for prostitution. That was the law put forward by Jessica Ramos.
Gentlemen,
you started the prostitution in East Elmhurst,
Mr. Sliwa,
and Jackson Heights and Flushing.
Mr. Sliwa, we have...
And you want to add to it, which diminishes the quality of life.
Mr. Sliwa, when I talk over you, nobody's hearing you, and we actually have a question on that. So we'll let Rosarina ask.
And for this question, candidates, we want to come to Queens, where we know that prostitution has been an ongoing complaint. Mayor Adams form a task force and order sweeps by the NYPD. But the situation continues, especially around the very popular Roosevelt Avenue. As mayor, Mr. Mamdani, how would you handle this situation? You have 30 seconds.
I want to first be clear that I am not, and nor have I ever called for the legalization of prostitution. And if you are happy with what's happening on Roosevelt Avenue, then you should vote for Andrew Cuomo, because his policy is to continue the exact same ones we've seen under Eric Adams. My policy is to actually take on sex trafficking, to have a zero tolerance for violence against women, and to follow the advice of district attorneys that we have here in New York City, the current Manhattan DA, the former Manhattan DA, the current Brooklyn DA, the former Manhattan DA having said that prosecuting women for prostitution is something that actually leads to less safety. And what we need to do is provide an economy
Mr.
of
Mamdani,
opportunity.
just a quick clarification. So no legalization, how about decriminalization?
I do not think that we should be prosecuting women who are struggling, who are currently being thrown in jail, and then being offered job opportunities. I think we should be actually providing those kinds of opportunities at the first point of interaction.
Mr. Cuomo, your turn.
Look, Bill de Blasio, the Assemblyman is a mini-me BDB, okay? He's Bill de Blasio light. He proposed legalizing prostitution. He didn't get it, and he just told the cops, don't arrest any more prostitutes. There is a bill in Albany that he signed that says the prostitution, that a woman who is a prostitute, that would be decriminalized. That is what the bill says. And that's what he said, if you listen very carefully. That would take Roosevelt Avenue and explode it, because it would make it legal for prostitutes.
But real quick, how would you handle this situation?
You have to enforce the law. It's illegal. I went to Roosevelt Avenue. I talked to the store owners. I talked to the neighbors. I walked down Roosevelt Avenue with prostitutes there at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Your turn, Mr. Sliwa.
I've dealt with this back in the 80s and 90s in Hell's Kitchen in Chelsea, when they were overrun with open-air prostitution and Times Square. You don't go after the women. The women are the victims here. You lock up the Johns, you shame the Johns. You let everybody know about the Johns. The madams and the pimps need to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And these absentee landlords who knowingly rent their rooms, their apartments out for the use of prostitution, the Department of Building should come in, padlock the building, seize the building. Because many of these landlords live in Delray, Florida. They did back in the 80s and 90s when we did it in Chelsea and Times Square and Hell's Kitchen. And they're doing it again, and there's no enforcement. That's why the prostitution
We're going to go to Sally now.
Thank you, David. We're going to talk a bit about experience and beliefs. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, but we want to probe a bit deeper into each of your mindsets and how you'll approach governing as mayor. Mr. Cuomo, you have touted your experience on the campaign trail time and again, but you pretty squarely lost the Democratic primary to Mr. Mamdani, forcing you, a lifelong Democrat, to run as an independent. When you announced that decision, you said, quote, "When you get knocked down, learn the lesson and pick yourself back up." What lesson did you learn, and what do you feel it said about you, something you did wrong, something that you need to change about yourself?
Yeah, I think in the primary campaign, I did not do enough on social media, which is a very effective medium now. I think the Assemblyman did do a better job on TikTok and social media than I did during the campaign, and that has changed now. I've also increased my activity significantly, but my agenda is exactly the same. I am the Democrat, although I'm not on the Democratic line. He is a Democratic socialist, called Barack Obama evil and a liar, didn't vote for Kamala Harris. Fight and deliver is, I will fight for people, I will fight the bureaucracy, and I will deliver results. New Yorkers need the mayor to get something done. This is all words and theories. I am a manager who can actually get things done.
This is a question about self-reflection. Is the thing you're reflecting on the most that you need to be on social media more? Was there any other deeper lesson that you learned?
Between the two campaigns, social media, more accessibility.
Okay.
I just have to say, it's been an hour and 20 minutes of this debate, and we haven't heard Governor Cuomo say the word affordability. That's why he lost the primary. That's why he'll lose the general election. And you can lie all you want, but the truth is, I voted for Kamala Harris. I'm the only candidate on this stage to have the endorsement of Kamala Harris, and I'm not the one who's funded by Bill Ackman, who called Kamala Harris unqualified to be the vice president of this country.
Okay, may I respond?
Yes, brief response, please.
There are a lot of New Yorkers who support me. And there are a lot of Jewish New Yorkers who support me because they think you're anti-Semitic. So it's not about Trump or Republican. It's about you.
Do you think he's anti-Semitic, Mr. Cuomo?
I don't make those judgments about people. Are you a racist? Are you an anti-Semite? I know there are many Jewish people who believe he is anti-Semitic. I believe not condemning the globalized Intifada, what he has said about Hamas.
But Mr.
I can
Cuomo,
see where they
I covered
are
your,
inflamed.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I covered your speech in an Upper West Side synagogue where you said anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. There is no difference. And you were talking about Mr. Mamdani. Is that not an allegation?
No, I make that statement all the time. I wasn't referring to Mamdani.
Okay, all right. Mr. Mamdani, a brief response, and then we have to move on.
I have denounced Hamas again and again, and it will never be enough for Andrew Cuomo, because what he is willing to say, even though not on this stage, is to call me the first Muslim on the precipice of leading this city, a terrorist sympathizer, is to send mailers that artificially lengthen my beard, is to say to New Yorkers that they should be fearful.
Okay, Mr.
What I will do
Melissa
is
has
deliver
Melissa has a specific question
Mr.
for you.
Mamdani, you are the Democratic nominee, and you're also a member, as we've been discussing, of a political organization that may be less familiar to New Yorkers, the Democratic Socialists of America, which believes in dismantling capitalism. New York City is the global headquarters of the finance industry. So how would you be the mayor of Wall Street and the DSA? You have 1 minute.
I would be the mayor of this entire city. And that means ensuring that the wealth that we generate in this city is also wealth that every single New Yorker can actually feel in their pockets. Because what we have today is a system that has generated the most wealth in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, where 1 in 4 of our neighbors are living in poverty. That's unacceptable. We can't look at 500,000 kids hungry every single night as just the cost of doing business in this city. That's something we have to actually change. And I'm going to do that by fighting for my neighbors in Queens that I've come to know, who are not only the ones who own teapots and toy stores, who own diners and dry cleaners, but also the ones who work there. Because right now, all of them are being pushed out of this city by corporate greed, by private equity, and by a politics that refuses to fight for them. I will finally
Just a
deliver
quick
that.
follow-up, Mr. Mamdani. A lot of Hispanic that flee socialism and are a little bit scared to hear your policies. What would you tell them?
Well, I would first say that I wouldn't be here without the support of Latino New Yorkers, because it was the majority of their support that helped to make me the Democratic nominee. And what democratic socialism means is a belief in the dignity of each and every New Yorker and the responsibility city government has to deliver that dignity. That's why I'm speaking about childcare, because it's pricing out New Yorkers from the city. That's why I'm speaking about freezing the rent, because housing isn't a human right in the way that we practice our politics in this city. And that's why I'm talking about making buses fast and free, because 1 in 5 New Yorkers are being priced out of public transit today.
Rosarina.
So, Mr. Sliwa, I would like to talk to you because you were here with us 4 years ago in the same stage for the general election debate, and you lost it. Why do you believe New York is ready to elect a Republican this time around?
First off, did I not warn you 4 years ago that Eric Adams would be corrupt and we would have chaos? Did I not? Of course I did. And I get praised for that. Now I'm trying to get people to vote for me, not just on the Republican line, but also my wife, Nancy, who was the best thing that's ever happened to me, created the first ever independent Protect Animals line, which calls for no-kill shelters and putting animal abusers in jail. But the other thing that differentiates me from both of my adversaries is that I am opposed to the city of yes, which will destroy the residential neighborhoods. Both of them are for the city of yes. So when you vote for me, whether on the Republican line or the Protect Animals line, turn your ballot over and vote no on all those initiative and referendums. Imagine, they've said, how can you, Curtis, a Republican, work with a Democratic majority in the council? Adrian Adams is in agreement with me. The Democratic city council people are in agreement with me. No to the city of yes, which will take your homes and provide you instead with lithium-ion battery warehouses next to your house, which are like mini Chernobyl. I'm the only candidate who is opposed to the city of yes.
Thank you.
I have a quick follow to that, Mr. Sliwa. How do you bring down costs if you don't build more housing?
Oh, it's very simple to build housing. You just look in New York City. We have so many dense areas where you no longer can use the commercial space. They used to be office space. And you just convert it into residential housing. You don't need to go into the outer boroughs. You don't need to use wetlands and parklands, which they seek to do. If you build a new building, it takes 5 years. If you convert an
All right, Mr. Sliwa, thank you. We want to change the pace
it can
a
be
little
done
bit.
in a year.
I want to change the pace and just get a sense of what you think about political leadership. We're curious about who you admire. Who is the best modern-day U.S. president? Mr. Cuomo?
Modern day? Well, I'm partial. I was Bill Clinton's Housing and Urban Development Secretary. We built affordable housing all across the United States.
So Bill Clinton?
Empowerment zones. I would say Bill Clinton.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani?
I would say FDR.
Mr. Sliwa?
He's modern day?
Modern.
Well,
Man,
I'd say FDR also, if that's modern day.
Mr. Sliwa?
A man that ended up being loved by Democrats and Republicans alike, the greatest governor we've ever had in my lifetime, George Pataki. 3 terms, no chaos, no corruption.
I was asking.
And he actually beat
President,
the better
President,
your father.
Mr. Sliwa, modern day U.S.
this
president.
governor and this
Modern day U.S.
president,
president.
Curtis. Wake
Who's
up.
Who you thought the best modern
best president in our lifetime?
Yeah.
Or I would say the best president in our lifetime that I've experienced. I would go back to Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. Okay. How about the best New York City mayor, Mr. Sliwa? Best New York City mayor, Mr. Sliwa.
Rudy Giuliani, who endorsed me last week.
Okay.
And I'd have a little bit of Michael Bloomberg thrown in because he liked
Mr.
to delegate
Mamdani?
responsibility.
I think the best New York City mayor of all time is Fiorello LaGuardia.
Mr. Cuomo.
It was Bill de Blasio last debate.
No, I've always said Fiorello is the best mayor of all time.
Who's yours, Mr. Cuomo?
Is it of all time or modern time?
Best New York City mayor in Europe.
Of all time, it is Fiorello LaGuardia.
We agree.
Recently, I would say Mayor Dinkins and Mayor Bloomberg.
Okay. How about the political leader, dead or alive, you most admire? Mr. Mamdani?
I would say I admire Bernie Sanders.
Mr. Cuomo?
My father.
Mr. Sliwa?
I said it already, George Pataki, who is loved by Democrats and Republicans and the greatest mayor in our lifetime.
All right.
The greatest
Sal,
governor in our
I just
lifetime.
have one more before Sally starts to ask you about schools. A show of hands. Who supports Kathy Hochul for re-election?
It's a decision that should be made after this general election.
So no decision. Mr. Cuomo, you handpicked her as your lieutenant governor. No thought?
You have to know who's running.
Yeah. Okay, so.
And I would add that I do think that Kathy Hochul, our governor, has been doing a good job in not only
Do you
serving
support her
and
for re-election?
delivering, not only delivering for New Yorkers, but also standing up to Donald Trump.
Just what? Do you support her for re-election?
Then endorse her.
I'm focusing on November.
Why don't you endorse
and I
her?
appreciate her support,
All right,
and I
thanks,
appreciate
candidates.
her work.
But you
Thanks,
don't
candidates.
endorse her.
How about
Sally?
a shout out
All
for
right,
Lee
we're gonna
Stefanik
turn
to
to-
take out Kathy Hochul? So you have a
Okay.
Republican
All right.
Mayor Curtis,
All right.
a Republican Governor
Thank you, gentlemen.
Stefanik,
Thank you.
like Giuliani
We want to
and
talk about
Pataki, who
schools.
saved this city.
We want to
and
talk about
state.
schools. Sally?
Okay, thank you, David. Let's turn to education. There are a number of issues facing public schools. One that's been controversial in the campaign is the Gifted and Talented program, which offers accelerated instruction to elementary school children. Mr. Mamdani, you have said that you want to phase out the Gifted and Talented program, while Mr. Cuomo and Mr. Sliwa want to expand it. Mr. Sliwa, we will start with you. What is your plan for the program? You have 1 minute.
Gifted and talented.
Yes, Gifted and Talented.
I have 2 younger sons with Melinda Katz, the Queens DA. They both attempted to get into Gifted and Talented as 4-year-olds. They failed. It did not present a problem with their future education. We don't have enough slots. Right now, they're 1,900. We need to have at least 5,000 slots around the city. What they have not done at the Department of Education is make these tests available in Black and Hispanic communities. So, for instance, you have 77,000 children who are 4 years old. Only 10,000 have taken the test. Only 2,000 are accepted. Why not offer the test to all 77,000? And even if a gifted and talented class only has 3 or 4 in a minority school, give these children an opportunity to excel too. That would make it fair for everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Cuomo, how does your plan differ from Mr. Sliwa's? You also have 1 minute.
First, I support mayoral control. I think it would be a terrible mistake to roll back mayoral control. That's probably been the most dramatic educational reform in 40 years. We'd go back to the old system that had local school boards, which were corrupt, patronage mills, et cetera. So who runs the system is number one. I would expand gifted and talented programs, accessibility. I'd offer preparatory courses to any student, parent that wanted to take them. I'd double the number of specialized high schools from 9 to 18. And I would keep the SHSAT as it is.
Thank you. And Mr. Mamdani.
Could I add one thing? There's been no discussion about vocational high schools, which save so many young men and women. We need to expand vocational training for those who are not going to achieve academic excellence.
We're going to keep going here with Mr. Mamdani. Why should the Gifted and Talented program be phased out, in your opinion? You have a minute to answer.
So I want to be very clear. I have spoken solely of gifted and talented for kindergartners. I do not believe that kindergartners should be subject to a singular assessment. I have not spoken of any gifted and talented programs older than for kindergarten. I'm solely speaking about kindergarten. And I believe that we should be delivering the best education across the country here in this city. We will do that by following through on the proposals I've put forward to hire 1,000 more teachers every single year through our Community to Classroom program, one that will ensure that we're providing each student, whether they be in high school or someone who is an adult looking to become a teacher, with $12,000 in tuition subsidies so that they can start to fulfill the 7,000 to 9,000 additional teachers we need so that we can actually deliver on the Class Size Reduction Act, which I was proud to pass in Albany, that will ensure that children and teachers actually have a manageable ratio in that classroom so that they can learn. Because today, that learning is being rendered impossible by the number of kids in that same classroom. It's time to make sure that that number is lower.
But you don't believe the mayor should run the system?
I've been critical of mayoral control because of the ways in which it's been used to take away the voice of parents, of educators, of students. And I think it's important that those same voices be a part of how we lead the system.
So are you for or against mayoral control?
I've been critical of it. I'm against mayoral control, and I think that there's an importance of developing something that actually enshrines all of those voices together.
Mr. Cuomo, you also tried to curtail it when Mayor de Blasio was mayor. But
I'm
we
sorry.
can go.
Did you hear what she said?
No.
I was saying you proposed a curtailment of mayoral control when Mayor de Blasio was mayor during
There's
negotiations.
been multiple modifications of mayoral control over
But
the
some
years.
proposed curtailment at your hand. So if you are such a champion of it tonight,
No,
I think it's worth pointing
I never
out.
proposed reversing mayoral control.
No, shortening the duration of time he would have control of schools.
Yes, for renewal. The
Mr.
renewal
Mamdani,
period.
how much
Counter
control
to
of
what you're
schools,
saying.
Mr. Mamdani, how much control of schools would you be giving up? Is it just a sharing arrangement? I know you want to share with the districts and with parents, or would you be giving up full control? And is that an accountability problem if the buck doesn't stop with you?
I think the mayor needs to retain the accountability so that New Yorkers know exactly who they can come to when they have critiques. And I think we also have to develop a system where we don't have what we saw just recently, where you have hours and hours of parents and teachers and students testifying only to be overruled without any consideration by the panel on
Thank you,
education.
Mr. Mamdani. I have to move on. Switching now. It's a question for all three of you. Switching to students with learning challenges. Parents of students with dyslexia, ADHD, and autism are very well aware the fact that the school system in New York City is not doing enough to meet their children's educational needs. How will you help these parents and students? We know that Mayor Adams has expanded evaluations specifically for children with dyslexia. It was an issue close to his heart, but what would you do more broadly, Mr. Mamdani?
You know, I think some of the initiatives that Mayor Adams has launched, especially with this chancellor, have been showing positive signs, especially for literacy and for preparedness, especially as we're in a national crisis on reading and mathematical comprehension. And I think those are programs that should be furthered, should be invested in, all while also ensuring that we're giving teachers greater flexibility in the curriculum that they're actually teaching. Because what I've heard from many of those teachers is that too often the curriculum that's being procured in the $10 billion a year in DOE contracts is one that has little relation to the classroom.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr. Sliwa, you have 30 seconds.
Yes. We have $41,000 that we're spending on each student now. By fourth grade, 2/3 of these children cannot read, write, or do math at grade level. We should be ashamed of ourselves with that. 100,000 less students than we had last year. 1/3 are truants. We have 200 schools with 200 students or less, and Michael Mulgrew determines which schools stay open. Eric Adams is not exhibiting mayoral control. The mayor should run the Board of Education, the old Board of Education that is now the Department of Education. The bureaucracy. You have 13 deputy chancellors. You have 50 department heads that suck up all the money, and teachers are still reaching into their pockets to pay for badly needed supplies for the children in the class. The money should be going to the teachers and the children and young adults, and it's not.
Mr. Cuomo, what is your specific plan to deal with the challenges of students who have learning differences?
We are losing young families. When the child becomes of school age, they leave the city, they go to the suburbs, they go to New Jersey. They're not going to sacrifice their child on what they think is a secondary education system. The core competency, reading and math, below 50% is a disgrace. The gifted and talented programs gives people hope. I do believe Mayor Adams has made progress on the evaluations and services for children who require special needs and assistance, but obviously we have to do more.
So we have another question about improving schools. And in the last year, The schools enroll more than 36,000 migrant students, many learning English for the first time. From class size to bilingual teachers, that puts a big strain in the system. Mr. Cuomo, what can you do to help migrant students, but also the staff? You have 30 seconds.
Well, first, I think it was wrong of the state to put so many migrants in New York City. New York City had the overwhelming majority of migrants.
But they're already here.
Close to about 80%. The state should have put them all across the state, Nassau, Suffolk, upstate, so other governments could have also...
Well, they were bused here from Texas,
And
right?
we have a
Yes,
situation
but if
right
they're
now,
bused
they're
from
here.
Texas, you could have brought some to Nassau, 20 miles,
Yeah, but they're here
Westchester.
right now, and we're asking about the current problem.
Yes, well, that's how the problem was created.
Okay, we understand
The
that.
state put them here. The state gave the city the bill. It has now increased the challenge in our education system. The state is going to have to help financially.
So you didn't answer the question, Mr. Mamdani, is your chance.
You know, when I spoke about our community to classroom program, the importance of it is not just bringing in 1,000 more teachers every year. It's also that we would bring in a number of more bilingual educators. Because what we've heard from a number of adults who have taught in other countries, now live in New York City, is the process by which they get their certification approved to teach here is one that is onerous and one that is actually pricing many of them out. That's why this is a program that will directly address that, to increase that bilingual capacity in our school system so that we can teach every single child, no matter when they got here,
But
the public education
Mr.
they
Mamdani,
deserve.
this certification has been offered and it hasn't been successful. So how can you make more teachers to be, like they want to do this?
Part of what I've heard is that the tuition costs as part of the same certification exams are onerous for many of these adults looking to switch careers. That's why this program is built upon providing $12,000 in tuition assistance that would lead to 1,000 more teachers every year.
And also salaries will be a good...
We have not just migrant children, we have the children of the homeless, over 120,000. We haven't yet discussed charter schools, parochial schools that are closing. Normally, parochial schools would have been able to take some of these children. We need to expand the number of charter schools that are doing an amazing job, especially in the inner cities. And why not make that available to migrant children and to the homeless children who are coming from shelters all across the city who need the special teaching skills that have lifted children in the charter schools? We need to give choice, because that's our most precious resource, our children.
So allow me to now move on into the sanctuary.
I agree on the charter schools.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. So allow me now to enter into the sanctuary city situation, and let's talk about also undocumented immigrants. 26 Federal Plaza has become a flagship in federal immigration crackdown. We reported that asylum seekers are showing up for like those routine appointments, not facing any criminal challenges, and they end up being deported. So by the show of hands, we would like to know if you believe that any of you could do something to stop this. Okay. So Mr. Cuomo, you have a minute to explain us, what would you do?
The law is the law, and I would have an attorney assigned to every person who is undergoing any review by the federal government or any legal proceeding, and put the full weight of the city government behind it, and make sure they are legally protected.
Mr. Sliwa, what's your plan?
Look, going after the criminals, that's the job of Immigration and Naturalization Service, ICE. But when they have to perform under a quota, because I speak to many of the men and women who serve this country, it's putting too much pressure to go outside of courthouses, to go Home Depot shape-ups, or in the backs of restaurants and hospitality businesses, which have hired these migrants, and they are essential workers now. I can tell you, I have 3 sons. None of them are going to do that work. Some Americans will, but most won't. We need to protect the migrants who are workers, who are essential workers, and use ICE to go after the drug dealers, the gangbangers, the sexual predators, and those who are sex trafficking and involved in narco-terrorism.
Mr. Mamdani.
You know, I'd be proud to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations. And it's at 26 Federal Plaza that I've seen what used to be moments when New Yorkers would be getting their citizenship turn into moments of tragedy, where judges are asking New Yorkers who are there for a routine immigration check-in whether they're prepared to leave in the very same clothes that they arrived to that courthouse. I agree that we need more legal representation. I also think we need to actually be able to stand up to Donald Trump, because I heard from Pastor in East Flatbush, Pastor Galbraith, who told me how he accompanied a member of his congregation to 26 Federal Plaza. He sat there as a judge was determining her fate. They managed to convince the judge to replace the deportation order with a TPS order, but they knew that ICE would not care about that change, and they had to sprint her out of the building, smuggling her into the elevator in order to get her back to Brooklyn.
Thank you.
Candidates want to talk about New York City's economy and change the pace a little bit. Everyone supports growing New York City's economy. The mayor is our chief salesman to the business world. So we want to mix it up, test your persuasive power. So we're calling it an elevator pitch. And we'll start with you, Mr. Mamdani. In this scenario, imagine you're talking to the CEO of a big tech company deciding to move its headquarters to New York City or to Dallas. The CEO is concerned New York just raised its corporate taxes and employees will pay more for everything. Look into the camera and make your pitch to that CEO to come here and not there. Do it in 30 seconds.
New York City has something that Dallas or no other city across this country could actually offer. And that is the quality of life. That is the arts and the culture. That is the people that make the city so special. And I, as the mayor of this city, will deliver that quality of life, will deliver the safety that is the cornerstone of an affordability agenda, and will ensure that companies choose to come to this city and also choose to stay in this city. Because so much of what drives the tech sector is a hunger for innovation, a unrepenting desire to actually innovate, and those are the very things that are going to characterize my city government in this.
But what do you say to the CEO about the corporate taxes and also the staggering costs for the workers?
We are going to make this city more affordable so that workers who want to work at those companies can actually be able to do so. And we're going to ensure that this city continues to be one where we see businesses opening and also staying open.
All right, thank you. Sally?
Mr. Cuomo, something of a reverse scenario for you. The CEO of a similar company with 1,000 good jobs tells you she's very close to moving her headquarters out of New York City. She cites everything from taxes to the crushing cost of living for her employees in New York City. How do you convince that CEO to stay? Please look into the camera and make your elevator pitch. You have 30 seconds.
We know that the other companies in New York City. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Andrew.
The question is to me in this camera?
Yes, the question is how you would convince the CEO of a company with 1,000 good jobs who's looking to move out of New York City because of the high cost of living for her employees and taxes, how you would convince her to stay in New York City.
In 15 seconds?
30.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay. I get it. I understand your frustration. I understand that the far left has been raising taxes and making businesses feel like the enemy. We get it. That's gone. The DSA, the socialist orientation, we're not socialists. It didn't work in Venezuela, didn't work in Cuba, didn't work here. We know that we have to work with business. We want to be your partner. We want to have taxes that help us grow our city, but are competitive for you.
We're at time.
And we want to partner to grow your business and our city together.
Thank you, Mr. Sliwa, let's talk about business, because let's assume the big tech company that we pitched to Mr. Mamdani earlier has decided to move to New York, and it's 1,000 good paying jobs, and the CEO wants to be based in Astoria, Queens. But there's a loud pushback of residents who don't want the noise and the traffic. How can you convince the residents to accept the new neighbor? You're speaking to a very powerful community. How can you convince them?
Well, we saw that with Amazon. Amazon wanted to come in, and AOC led the charge and local elected officials to say no to Amazon. That was a big mistake. I would say this. Our companies are being recruited away by the day. We have young people who are going to school here who could fill their needs in these high-tech industries who also are being lured away. We need to cut their income taxes for 5 years. Tell them if you go to school here, graduate here, no income taxes for 5 years. It's an income tax holiday. And the most important thing, we have to be able to assure the executives that this will be a city where we don't lock up toothpaste any longer, but lock up the criminals who make it intolerable to have a good quality of life.
Thank you.
We need to move on to a subject
that was the Democratic Socialists of America that stopped Amazon and cost us 25,000 jobs. So
Thank you,
real
Mr.
life.
Cuomo. We need to move on to a crisis that is very important to a lot of voters, and that is people struggling with mental health problems. Roughly 500 times a day, someone calls 911 about an emotionally disturbed person. And in a limited number of those cases, when the person is not believed to be violent, social workers are dispatched instead of police. Mr. Mamdani, you want to do that on a much larger scale. So we want to know, how will this work? When will you send police versus social workers? You have 1 minute.
You know, we have a program here in New York City called Be Heard that is attempting to do this kind of work. But we've had a mayor who has ensured that it's been unsuccessful, to the extent that even when there was an assessment of about 60% of calls that could have been addressed by Be Heard instead of the NYPD, Be Heard was not actually responsive to it. And that's because we haven't had the political will to deliver on what is a crisis that affects so many New Yorkers, which is the mental health crisis. What my plan will do, an innovative plan of the Department of Community Safety, will take what has worked elsewhere in the country, a program in Eugene, Oregon, where they took 24,000 911 mental health calls out of the police department. They were able to respond to all but 311 without police assistance. When there is a concern for safety or of violence, absolutely, you would have the police there. But what we are doing today is actually ensuring that every single call is going to the police and not allowing them to do the work that they signed up to do.
How will you determine whether there is a concern for safety or violence? What is the line between the calls in which police will be dispatched and the calls to which social workers will be dispatched?
The line is also going to be one focused on violence and the threat of violence. And I also trust the operators who will be receiving those calls to make that determination, as they do every day today for so many emergency services.
And just 2 really quick points, please. There has been a lot of discussion that you would send social workers to domestic violence calls, which police are concerned about. So you're saying no, okay. And then the other question is, how can you be sure that a situation that does not sound violent when someone calls 911 does not become violent in the moment? Would police be assigned as backup?
I think what you do is you actually follow the experts that have shown us this can work when you're willing to ensure that you're trusting the mental health experts who have been doing this work elsewhere in the country, where they call for the police when they need the police, but their initial impulse when there's no violence in that call is to actually address the mental health at the heart of it.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa, you have encountered plenty of these types of situations in your decades of work with the Guardian Angels. So do you see this approach working? You're not a police officer, but you've helped out in situations.
Zoran, boy, another fantasy that's not reality. Eugene, Oregon. Have you ever been to Eugene? I've been to Eugene. Come on, this is New York City. We have so many emotionally disturbed persons that are in need of help. I will tell you this, Andrew, you closed the mental health beds that were taking care of them. 40,000 when you came into office, down to 4,000 because of your cuts, which forced these people to live in the streets, in the parks, and the subways. These people need to be removed. They need mental health care. We need to make our shelters safe. I've been in 1/3 of the 300 shelters run by the Department of Homeless Services. It's Darwinian there, survival of the fittest. If we can make our shelter system safe, we can get men and women who are homeless in there, especially veterans who we're not giving any attention to, who we put out in Ward's Island at 10 o'clock at night, released during the day, don't give any training, have them roam about, and obviously when you have nothing to do, you end up getting into trouble.
Okay.
This is a disastrous, homeless and emotionally disturbed plan that we have in New York City, and I'm the mayor that can change it because I deal with them every day in the streets, in the parks, and the subways.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo, do you think that the NYPD handles these calls for emotionally disturbed people in distress well? Is there room for something in the middle?
Yeah, I think the Assemblyman deals in theory. There's an advantage when you actually have experience. I've run homeless programs. I ran the homeless programs for the federal government. I worked with cities all across the nation. When you get a call on a telephone about a mentally ill person who may be violent, it is a very dangerous situation. And I think you should have a mental health worker accompanied with a police officer, because these can be explosive situations. I have been in situations that seemed apparently calm and fine and then erupted into violence very quickly, and it got very dangerous very quickly. So I would have a social worker with a police officer and get the people off the streets. That's the humane thing, and get them the care they need, not institutionalize 40,000 people again. We have supportive housing now, which is what we use, and forensic beds for people who need them.
Now, let me get this straight. A police officer is there first. He has to wait for the arrival of a mental health care worker.
No, I would send them as a team.
As a team. But that's not realistic. You're dealing with fantasy also.
All right.
The police officers are going to be the first one on the scene, and they're always going to have to deal with it first and foremost.
Mr. Cuomo says that he has experience running homeless programs. What he has experience doing is cutting funding for the very programs that prevented homelessness here in New York City. As the governor, he cut funding for the Advantage program, which was putting New Yorkers who had otherwise been in shelters, otherwise been homeless, into apartments. I met one of those New Yorkers,
Mr. Cuomo,
and she told me how that pushed her out on the
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Brief response, Mr.
He's talking about a program 14 years ago. That was a pilot program that had a work requirement. It was very controversial. It was $65 million.
You're talking about Advantage, just so we know
the
what you're
Advantage
talking
program.
about? Okay.
It was 14 years ago, $65 million. I added billions to the homeless budget. Funded the homeless budget larger than any governor in history.
Okay.
He
okay,
cut
thank
that
you. We want to talk
program.
about.
He
all right.
cut that
Mr.
program.
Mamdani,
Homelessness skyrocketed
Mr.
after
Mamdani,
It
we
did
have aired
not. It
this
was 14 years ago.
All right.
It was during the Bloomberg administration. And yes, okay.
Okay. I want to ask you about climate change. As New York City confronts the impact of climate change, one issue already on the desk of the next mayor is Local Law 97. Passed in 2019, the law requires large buildings to gradually reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. That may require very expensive upgrades to buildings, which some landlords and co-op owners say they just simply can't afford. We're wondering how each of you would enforce the law. You have 30 seconds. Mr. Cuomo.
Local Law 97, I support. Implementing the law is going to be the key, because it has to be done in a way that isn't so disruptive to businesses and residences that they just give up and pay the fine and don't even try to comply, which is what is going to happen now. It will be cheaper for them to pay the fine than comply. And that obviously will accomplish nothing. So, yes, I support the law. Yes, we have to implement it, but we have to implement it in a way that is feasible.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Sliwa?
Local 97 will destroy those people who have invested in co-ops and condos. There's 100,000. It's forcing them to electrify. Now, you, Andrew Cuomo, took Indian Point offline, 25% of our electrical capacity with no replacement, which has caused skyrocketing electricity bills. And now we're going to force condo and co-op owners to electrify. Maintenance fees will go up 30%. These people will be leaving their condos and co-ops. They need relief. When I'm mayor, I slow that process down. We need our co-op owners and condo owners to stay here in New York City and not flee.
Indian Point? Yeah. Indian Point was started before me. It was a very dangerous situation. We have nuclear facilities upstate, and my proposal on what I did is run cables from the nuclear facilities upstate to bring the power to downstate. Indian Point had 20 million people in the kill zone.
Thank you, Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Mamdani, Local Law 97, how would you enforce the law as mayor?
I support the law, and I would also make it easier for condo and co-op owners to comply with the law, because what I've heard from so many is that it's cheaper to pay the fine than to actually get into compliance. Role here in procurement at a large scale of so much of what is necessary in these infrastructure investments. We've seen it be done in the Clean Energy Challenge within NYCHA. It's time to do it right here in New York City to assist those condo and co-op owners in meeting the standards we desperately need to hit.
Okay, gentlemen, New York City loves its parades, and the mayor is often front and center. You have all said that you want to be mayor for all New Yorkers. So will you march in all the parades that mayors have traditionally marched in, or are there any that you would boycott? Mr. Sliwa?
I think a mayor has a responsibility, whenever possible, to march in parades, to celebrate whatever that parade is performing as. I've been a Grand Marshal of the Pulaski Day Parade. I was proud to celebrate my Polish heritage.
Are there any that you would boycott, though? I just need to move this along.
Excuse me?
Would you boycott any of the city's parades?
No, I would not boycott any parades.
Mr.
It's the mayor's
Cuomo,
responsibility to be available to all racial, ethnic, and religious groups.
No, I wouldn't unless they discriminated.
Okay. Mr. Mamdani?
There are many parades that I would not be attending because I'd be focusing on the work of leading this city.
Which parades
A
would you
number
not
of
be
them.
going to?
I've already missed a number of those parades because I've been
Well,
trying
could you
to
tell us?
speak
Share
to as
with
many
our
New Yorkers
audience
as
here.
possible.
Okay.
I don't have the list of all the parades I've missed.
Wow, that's a
All right.
lot.
Are there-
The mayor
let me
should
ask
be
you
going to
this.
all parades.
Let me ask you this. Are there any parades that don't exist that you think should? Mr. Mamdani?
I haven't thought much about parades, to be honest with you.
Mr. Cuomo?
I have not thought. I don't even know what parade doesn't exist, frankly.
Could be for anything. Mr. Sliwa?
Every parade has the right to exist in New York City. I would ask
David?
you,
Thank you.
Mr.
Okay.
Mondani, would you protect the Christopher Columbus statues that exist here in the city?
I'm telling you, my focus is on affordability. I'm not thinking about
Well, you're not
statues.
answering the
All
question.
right. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're not answering the
He
question.
gave the finger to the Columbus Day
Okay,
statue.
that issue's come up.
That's what we
earlier
call
in
a
the debate. All right, candidates,
disgraziado.
listen, we're in the last couple of minutes, and we
You know
thought
what
we'd
that
have
means?
some questions. We thought we'd have some questions that maybe give a glimpse into your life, your personality, away from the political podium. What's your go-to breakfast order at the bodega, Mr. Sliwa?
Oh, eggs and cheese on a roll. No salt, please.
Mr. Cuomo?
Same thing, no salt also.
Mr. Mamdani?
Egg and cheese on a roll with jalapenos.
No.
Have you ever purchased anything in a cannabis shop? And if so, what did you buy, Mr. Mamdani?
I have. I have purchased marijuana at a legal cannabis shop.
Okay. Mr. Cuomo?
No.
Mr. Sliwa?
When I was shot 5 times, I've had Crohn's disease. I did use medical marijuana. Yes.
Okay. In a dream scenario, we know it's not possible, but the Mets are playing Game 7 of the World Series on the same night as the Knicks are playing Game 7 of the NBA Championship, and you can only go to one. Which one will it be, Mr. Sliwa?
Again, which baseball team?
This is the Mets, Game 7, Knicks, Game 7. Even
I'm not going to the Mets game. I'm a Yankee fan. True baseball fans either like one or the other. I'm going to the Knicks game. That's my team, the Knicks.
Mr. Cuomo?
I'm going to go half and half. I can make it back and forth.
All right. And Mr. Mamdani?
This is what New Yorkers are sick of. Just pick a team.
What's
Come
your
on.
answer?
I'd be there for the Knicks.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of ground covered. We'll leave it on that light note. Thank you, candidates, for a spirited debate. We thank you as well. We hope you got a lot out of it. New York City viewers, New York City voters. The New York City Campaign Finance Board, we thank heartily, and we urge you to check out their website, nycvotes.org. From all of us here, we certainly thank you for watching. And remember, go vote on Tuesday, November 4th. Have a good night.
We hope you got a lot out of that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to our New York City mayoral debate replay. We've been on for 3 hours. The first part of this stream featured some reactions, including my own, of the New York City debate, the New York City race, and the fighting that's happening amongst New Yorkers, which I don't mind too much because, that's part of, being a real New Yorker, is that sometimes we can become a little bit of a-holes with one another. And New York, this is a big election. My closing comments is thank you for watching. If you live in New York City, I hope that you go out and vote. If you can, vote early if you can, because so many strange things happen on voting day that one of the things we've learned is if we're able to go vote early, it's actually just so much more easy and pleasant, and early voting starts relatively soon, in just a matter of days. And who's going to be your candidate? We are with Curtis Sliwa all the way. And we understand what the polling is. Polling has been wrong. At the same time, there's no way that we can vote for any Democrat here in New York City. And let me backtrack that a little bit, because more importantly is to look at the person who is running, whether they are running as a Democrat or as a Republican, because you do have sane people and moderate thinking people who are not on extremes or representing very small slices of what would be a population of different perspectives, ideas, and viewpoints. And as somebody who is a woman, Latina, born and raised in New York City, I feel so left behind, so unmet in every way, from the point of view of the small business perspective, from the point of view of being an everyday New Yorker. I don't feel met by the New York City leadership. It just doesn't speak to me, to people like me. Cuomo doesn't speak to a lot of New Yorkers, period. Zoran Mamdani speaks to some New Yorkers. And you have to, admit that this is where and why the Democratic Party is imploding. They've become too elite. You're playing with the big boys and the big tech, and all this allyship with media. And it has really been like one platform, one voice, and that doesn't even represent true diversity. And then to be at the 11th hour and there's big failures because people see that they're terrified that Zoran Mamdani could actually win. That is not anyone's fault but Democratic leadership and your beautiful allies. It is time for changes here in New York. It is also time for people to stop fighting so much. Some of the things I didn't like about this debate is all the fighting. I felt like I was seeing a high school fight. High school, like, you said this, and you said that, and you said this, and you said that, and Donald Trump said this. And then the moderators, so much of the way they cut some of them from speaking was just so distasteful. Maybe we need to kind of think about these debates. If these people are running to lead a city, to lead a powerful office, why are we giving them 30 seconds to respond to such important questions? There were things here that I wish I could have heard more from. In particular, Curtis Sliwa, who I really believe is the most common sense choice out of the three. So thank you again for tuning in. There is another mayoral debate coming up on Wednesday. And then it's time to go start voting. So I guess we'll see you at the polls. Thank you again, mi gente. I love you. And we'll see you soon. Don't forget to tune in to Cafecito Break Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We are on Substack, cafecitobreak.org. Find us on social media everywhere at Cafecito Break, Cafecito Break 10.0 on Instagram. We post daily there and on X. Good night, everyone. This has been Rosangel of Cafecito Break.